This is Adam Graham from Pretty Much the Present, bringing you a week of old-time radio podcasts. These episodes were originally released back in 2011, and we're releasing them here pretty much as is, with only some extraneous bits such as the opening from all of the episodes after the first episode removed. Because these are old, it should be noted that any offers or promotions mentioned in the episode may not be valid unless they're currently mentioned on the Great Detectives website. Here now is a week of old-time radio detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you've got a comment, email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Be sure to cast your vote for the program on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net, and follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Radio Detectives. Well, we're going to be introducing you to a new program, Barrie Craig, Confidential Investigator, with the star William Gargan. But before we do get started, I do want to let you know that Tales of the Dim Night, my novel written with my wife, is now been reduced as an ebook to $2.99, and it will soon be coming out as an app for Android and the iPhone, and is available in print as well. It's a great comedy story. I encourage you to pick it up at dimnight.com. And it's also available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other major online retailers. Well, I've mentioned to you before that Martin Caine, Private Investigator, which was the show that William Gargan took on for NBC on television and radio after Ideal and Crime ended, was very popular. But Gargan had a couple of problems with the program. And both actually tied into the same source. The producer of Martin Caine was of the mind that what you needed to get television viewers was you needed beautiful women on screen. And according to Gargan, you needed to show some skin. This directive and the way the producer ran things presented two problems for Gargan. First of all, Gargan was a very observant Catholic, very active in his church and Catholic organizations. He was part of the Bohemian Society as well as the Knights of the Holy Sepulchre. And for this reason, he objected to what he viewed as a disgusting method of selling the program. He objected morally. He was also a professional actor. He had begun his career in what they called, at the time, the legitimate theater. He had begun working on shows in New York City, and well as touring performances. He was really a working professional actor, through and through. And the problem he ran into is that these beautiful women were brought on the program regardless of their ability to actually act. While we don't really have anything that in the surviving prints that I've seen that gives an example of too much skin being shown, although we've only got a small percentage of the programs they made, most were made live and lost. We do have, even just yesterday, if you watch the video theater episode of Martin Caine, towards the end of the show, if you watch it, the actress who was the female character of the week totally blew her line. Could tell she didn't remember it at all, and she kind of tried to ad-lib what the essence was. And then Gargan, as Caine, flubbed a line later. He was talking about hanging up a picture, and he said, we'll get a couple of hammers and a nail. Then he reversed himself. I mean, a couple of nails and a hammer. So it's a challenge for a professional actor. It kind of threw him off of his rhythm. surrounded by people who couldn't act. So he had a showdown with the producer, and he took a firm stand. He said, either we stop the garbage on the air and we get back and we get to having some quality scripts, or you find yourself another boy. Well, of course, NBC and the television industry being what it is, they said, we'll find ourselves another boy. However, Gargan's relations with the producer were strained, but not with the network. NBC gave him a 7-year, $1 million contract to do the role of Barrie Craig, confidential investigator, over the radio. Of course, there was the option for Barrie Craig to become a television show of its own, or to become a movie, and Gargan would play the role in all cases. Now, this contract was extremely generous for the era. One big reason for that was CBS. CBS, just a few years before, as radio was sunsetting, had made an active practice of stealing talent from NBC by offering higher wages. And the folks at NBC knew probably that if they hadn't signed Gargan, then CBS would have gotten him. And they definitely didn't want that to happen. Barrie Craig is one of my favorite detective shows. He is very easygoing, sweet-tempered, unless you provoke him, and a very fun character with a tongue-in-cheek take on the private detective genre. I think you're going to enjoy it. The program undertook many changes in spellings. At first, the name of the series was announced as Barrie Crane, and then the spelling of Barrie Craig changed from the more common spelling of B-A-R-R-Y to the one of B-A-R-R-I-E. That spelling of Barrie was actually the same as the name of Gargan's son. So we'll just use that final spelling as our basis for episode titles. Well, I've talked enough. Let's go ahead and we will take a listen to The Judge and the Champ.
Hello, Craig speaking. I wanted to read you my lead for tomorrow's column. At the door. Hold the line, Barry, while I see who it is.
Don't answer it, right? Stay with the door. Stay with the door. Don't answer it.
Oh. You. Look, I told you it's no use coming here. You're just wasting your time. My life's too short.
My transcription. Barrie Craig, confidential investigator, starring William Gargan.
Barrie Craig speaking. It was one of those nights. I was sitting in my office with my feet hooked on the corner of my desk, trying to whip up some enthusiasm over an assignment to bodyguard a couple of tin coffee pots at a Long Island wedding when the telephone rang. I let it ring a few times before I reached out and snagged it off its hook. After all, when they're that anxious, they can be mighty worthwhile. Yeah, who's this?
Al White from the Chronicle. Remember me?
Oh, Al White, sure. How's the gossip column racket these days?
Warming up. I got a chore for you.
I'll bet you have.
Meaning what?
I've been reading that column of yours. Those cracks you've been making about Larry Slade throwing the big fight, they can't have made him very happy. I hear he's looking for you.
Yeah, so do I. I need a bodyguard.
You keep printing that Slade took a dive, and you're more likely to need an undertaker.
I was right about it, wasn't I? I even called around.
Sometimes there's something better to be than right.
Such as?
Alive. Something you're not likely to be if you keep needling Slade. He's big and sensitive.
My heart bleeds for him. Look, do you want this job or not?
All right, Al. Where do I start guarding the body?
The Casa Daily Bar. Midnight.
It wasn't the kind of case I'd like, but a private detective is like a doctor or a lawyer. You can't always pick and choose. Anyway, a few minutes short of midnight, I parked the car outside the Casa Daily. It was an old white frame building that Ace Davy had converted into a plush boob trap. One of those joints where if they don't get your roll with the fancy prices at the bar, they got stacked rooms all rigged up with roulette wheels and crap tables where they do. I was holding down the bar with an elbow, squinting through the fog of blue-gray smoke when my client, Al White, walked in.
Waiting long?
Not very.
Teenage Daily?
Yeah, he went in the game room a little while ago.
Larry Slade with him?
Champ? No, why?
Just a hunch. He'll be here, too, before the night's over. Daly's in the game room now, huh?
Hey, why the interest in Ace Daly? I thought you were after Slade time.
Maybe I'm after both of them.
You think Ace had a hand in fixing that fight?
Yeah, and tonight I'm looking for proof. Any objections?
Your skin, if you like to wear it with holes in it.
That's what I'm paying you to prevent.
Maybe we better make this one cash in advance.
Can't you trust me?
Oh, sure. I just don't want to have to go to the trouble of suing your estate to get my money.
Oh, very funny.
Hey, wait a minute. You must read tea leaves.
Huh?
Don't look now, but your old friend, the ex-champ, just came in.
Is he heading this way?
No, he's going on through into the gaming room.
Good.
What's good about it?
I had a tip Slade would be showing him for the payoff tonight. It settled it. He jumped the fight, and Daly paid him to do it.
You still haven't got any proof of a payoff.
With a little luck, we might even get that.
What are you going to do, follow Slade in?
Not yet. Give him a minute or two head start. He won't go direct to Daly's office. He'll probably waste a couple of minutes looking around in the gaming room, just to make sure he isn't being followed. Now, if we time it right, we may catch him in the act. And if we do, we'll have the biggest story of the year.
I only hope you live to write it.
All right, don't you worry about me.
All right, then. Don't worry about me. I only hope that I live to read it. We stayed at the bar, finished our drink, and listened while a tinny five-piece combo did unmentionable things to a popular ballad. Then Al White dropped a handful of silver on the bar and nodded he was ready. I led the way out of the bar to the disguised entrance of the roulette room. The door was presided over by a tuxedoed man with a broken nose. We stepped into a small vestibule, waited while he closed the door behind us. Then another door opened, and we stepped into the game room. A low buzz of conversation, spiced with the click of roulette balls, rolled out toward us. A dozen or more people were huddled around a huge roulette layout in the center. On the far side, a hot crap game was in session. Neither Ace nor Slade was in sight, so we ambled past the bank of slot machines toward a door marked private. From behind it, we could hear the sound of someone laughing.
Ready? All right, let's go.
And say your marriage, be as happy as you are beautiful, my dear.
Hold it, Judge.
We got company. Something just crawled out of the woodwork.
Something was wrong. Instead of a payoff, it looked like a party. Lifting a champagne glass with Ace Daly and Slade was the most gorgeous redhead I'd ever seen. And a tall, distinguished, white-haired man was just proposing a toast. It wasn't what we figured to find. But Al White didn't let that stop him. He walked right in like the life of the party. Or maybe the death of it.
Hello, Larry. Evening, folks.
I've been looking for you, White. I'm going to knock
Easy,
you...
chap, easy. My client doesn't like to be crowded.
Make it easy on yourself, and you keep out of
Cut
this.
it out,
He's
champ.
got it coming. I'm going to... Okay, Ace.
You, White. On your way.
Daly, you could lose a lot of customers talking to them that way.
I didn't send for you. Get out.
Ace, who is this man?
Yeah, Ace. Why don't you introduce us? I'm Al White, Mr. Dare. I write a column for the Chronicle.
How do you know my name?
Recognizing faces is part of my business. And how are you, Judge Adair? I thought you and Ace Daly were old political enemies. How nice to see that you've gotten together.
I think perhaps, sir, you'd better excuse us, Ace. Louise and I...
Sit down, Judge. I'll take care of White. He's just about to leave.
Don't mind if I do. Now. You see, I came here looking for a story in the fight fix the other night. Oh, it's small potatoes compared to a political fix.
What does he mean, Ace?
You and Ace, the happy couple.
Well,
And
really?
maybe if Ace helps the judge to get reelected, he can claim the bride as his reward. What's the story?
Ace, he mustn't print that. Not before election. He'd ruin everything.
Don't worry,
Why,
Judge. He's not printing anything.
That's where you're wrong. I'm not only printing it, but I'm going to do a feature piece on it.
Don't push your luck too far. You're still healthy because nothing will happen to you in my place. Providing you're out of it in 5 minutes.
Just let me take him, Ace. Let me
Without
take
a
him.
rehearsal, champ? I thought you always rehearsed your fight.
Why, you little rat. I'll kill you at the last
Look,
thing, Ace.
champ, I don't have my hand in my pocket because it's cold. I told you the guy's my client.
Sit down, champ. That's for you, Craig. Put up the heater.
Ace, you've got to stop him. He mustn't print that. It would ruin us, all of us.
Don't worry, Louise. If he so much as hints at it in that rag of his, I'll not only be on the line of people who want to kill him, I'll be at the head of it.
As we weren't in any position to cop any popularity prizes at the moment, there didn't seem to be much point in hanging around the Casa Daily. We got out with about 2 minutes left of the head start Ace had given us. White insisted that I drop him off at the combination office and apartment where he worked. So I locked him in for the night, then headed for my own apartment and some long-delayed shut-eye. I didn't need anybody to rock me to sleep, as I was practically snoring by the time my head hit the pillow. So when the phone started to dance off its stand a couple of hours later, it took me a few minutes to locate it. Oh, stand still, will you? Yeah?
Al White.
What time is it?
Oh, about 4:30.
Oh, it's the middle of the night.
Not for me. These are my office hours. Just finishing up tomorrow's column. I want to read you an item.
I can wait until tomorrow to read it. Hey, what's that?
Oh, the doorbell. Who is it? Hold the line a minute.
White, don't answer that. White, stay away from that. White! White! Without stopping to think twice, I knew that whoever was paying that late call to Al White carried a peculiar calling card engraved in lead. I started dressing, made par for the course, and was headed for a cab in less than 6 minutes. A police cruiser outside of Al White's apartment house told me somebody else had heard the shot. When I finally got to his door, it was opened by Sergeant Marty Moran of Homicide.
Yeah, I might have known. What are you doing here?
White was my client.
Wife?
Don't let's get cute, Marty. I was talking to him on the phone when he got us.
Oh, that accounts for the phone being off the hook.
Do I get in?
I suppose so. What were you talking about when it happened?
He wanted to read me an item out of tomorrow's column.
Column? You didn't find any column, just a few blank sheets in the typewriter, no column. Well, there he is. We haven't moved him yet. Me hasn't gotten here.
Got it in the back, huh?
All 5 of them.
Small caliber gun. 32 or less, I'd say.
Big enough to do the job.
Yeah. And you said there was no trace of a column.
No, just a few blank sheets of paper in his typewriter.
All right to handle it?
Yeah, I guess so. Barry, what's on your mind?
Just a hunch. I'm wondering if Al White had the same habit most newspaper boys have of jamming 2 or 3 sheets into their machine at a time.
Hey, you got something there. If he did, we may be able to bring out the impression on the second sheet.
That's worth a try.
There should be some dusting powder in the lab kit. Yeah, here's some. Let's have that second sheet.
Here you are.
Yeah, think that's enough dusting powder on it? Yeah, a little more, maybe. Shake it around. Well, what do you know? It worked.
Can you read it, Sergeant?
I think so. First, let's blow off the excess. Yep, there you are. Clear as a carbon copy.
Take your vows later. Uh-oh. Here it is. Listen. The mob is giggling over Ace Daly's payoff if the election goes right. Now, instead of fixing fights for sugar, the Ace is fixing elections for honey.
Ace Daly in this?
Yeah. He told White that if that item appeared, he'd kill him.
Well, why didn't you say so? That makes it easy. We put out a pickup on Ace and we got it made.
Better pick up Larry Slade, too, Marty.
The chance?
Yeah, he got into the act, too. He promised to kill White if he mentioned 6 fights again in his column.
Oh, fine. First I have no suspects. Now I've got more than I have teeth of my own. How many other characters promised to make this creep a prospect for a headstone?
Offhand, I don't recall, but as I think of them, I'll keep you informed, Marty. I got away from Sergeant Moran as soon as I could. He was yelling pickup orders into the phone as I closed the door behind me. On the street, I grabbed a cab, told the cabbie to double back up a couple of streets to make sure there was no police trail on me, then gave the driver the address of the Adair home. It was an old converted brownstone house with a large brass knocker. Through the glass door, I saw the kimonoed figure of Louise Adair. Over her shoulder on the stairway, I could see her father, his white hair shining in the gloom.
What? What do you want?
I'd like to see you for a few minutes, Miss Adair.
Now? What about?
Murder.
Murder?
Yes, Al White, the columnist, a few hours ago.
I see. Perhaps you'd better come in.
What is it, Louise?
You go on to bed, Dad. This gentleman wants to ask me a few questions.
Maybe your father ought to sit in on this.
Leave my father out of it.
Nonsense, Louise. Now, what's this all about? Al White, the columnist you met last night at Ace Daly's, is dead. Murdered.
And this gentleman, being a detective, has it figured out that Ace did it.
I didn't say that, Miss Adair. I said he had a motive. So does a lot of other people. You, for instance, or your father.
Ah.
Why not? If White printed that story about you and Ace, it might have cost your father the election. And it certainly wouldn't help your social standing.
Why, that's absurd. Ace and I were merely waiting for the proper time to announce our engagement.
After the election, I suppose, when it wouldn't be so embarrassing?
I can't have you making insinuations like that. I must ask you to leave.
Suit yourself, Judge. I was just trying to make it easy on you. White was my client.
And he's dead now.
Maybe so. But when a guy hires me to see that nothing happens to him and something does, I want the guy that made it happen.
But don't you see, we'll get dragged into it. The scandal will ruin Dad's chances of re-election.
That's unfair, Louise. How can we help?
Well, you can give me a fill-in on the time setup last night. What time did you leave the Casa Daily?
About 4. We came home and went right to bed.
4, huh? That would give Ace plenty of time to do the job. Was the champ there when you left?
Mr. Slade? No, he left before we did. His lady friend dances in one of the clubs.
Lily DeVore.
If you can call it dancing.
You saw her last night, huh? That might be his out.
My father and I'd like to get some sleep. If you have any more questions, would you mind if we discuss them later in some more suitable time and place?
All right. Let's say 4 o'clock this afternoon in my office. Meanwhile, I think I'll drop by the Carteret Arms and have a chat with Lily DeVore. The Carteret Arms was a big, expensive-looking pile of rocks in the West 50s. By the time I got there, a heavy drizzle had started, and it didn't pep me up any to learn that Lily hadn't gotten home yet. I found a soggy cigarette in my jacket pocket, got it burning, and settled back to wait. The gleaming wet face of a jeweler's clock across the street said 10 after 2 when a cab skidded to a stop at the curb. Lily DeVore jumped out, ran for the protection of the lobby. I gave her 10 minutes to get settled, then crossed over. It took a 2-spot and a lot of fast talk to get by unannounced. The 2-spot was more effective than the talk. Anyway, I got up to 4D and knocked.
Yeah?
Message for Miss DeVore.
Sorry. Okay, Buster, let's have... Say, what is this?
I want a little talk with you.
Get your foot out of that door.
Nice of you to ask me in.
You mean I had a choice? Look, I don't know what's on your mind, but you don't...
Don't be so modest, Lily. You know you're irresistible.
Yeah. And I know something else, too. You're liable to be unconscious when the champ hears about this.
I make it a policy never to worry unnecessarily.
And I make it a policy never to entertain strange men without a warrant. That goes double for private cops. Outside.
Okay. I just thought I'd help keep your champ out of the hot seat. But if that's the way you feel about it.
Look, you can't pin that killing on Larry Slade. You know he didn't do it.
That's not what the police think. Where is he, Lily?
I don't know. Hey, where do you think you're going?
Oh, just to have a look around.
Get out of here and leave me alone.
What's in there? I thought I heard something. Oh, mice, no doubt.
That's just a closet. Stay away from it. Stay away, I tell you.
As I moved Lily from in front of the closet door, I turned my back for a second. The door swung open behind me. I heard rather than saw the blow that knocked me to my knees. In that moment, the man in the closet made a break for it. He headed across the room for the bedroom door beyond. I was a little groggy, but I managed to follow him. By the time I got to the bedroom, I heard him go through the window to the fire escape beyond. I followed, stuck my head out. He snapped a shot at me from below. Gouged a chunk of windowsill a foot or so from my head. I pulled back fast. I wasn't that curious. Lily was still in the living room when I walked back. Okay, baby. Playtime is over. I lose my boyish smile when people use my skull for target practice. Who was it?
I don't know. A prowler, I guess.
If it was Slade, why did he run? You can alibi him for last night, can't you?
What? Sure.
Or can you?
Of course I can. We were together all morning.
He left Daly's before 4. When did he get to your place?
About 4. We left the club together, and then we...
You're lying, Lily, aren't you?
No!
If you are, I can check up at the club. You might as well admit it now.
Oh, all right. The director called a rehearsal on next week's show. Slade got bored and walked out on it about 4:15. We worked through.
In other words, he had time to knock off White. If he didn't do it, then why was he trying to hide here in your closet?
Slade wasn't in that closet.
Who was?
I don't know.
Who was it, Lily?
Oh, what's the use? Why should I cover for him? It was Ace Daly.
What was he doing here?
Same as you, looking for the champ.
To help him fix an alibi?
Slade doesn't need an alibi. He didn't do anything. Why don't you leave him alone?
Maybe I can help him. Where is he, Lily?
I told you I don't know, and I wouldn't tell you if I did.
That's what I thought. Just the same, if you want to see him get a break, you get to him and tell him to get to me. I didn't have long to wait. I just gotten back to the four-walled desk I laughingly called my office, shuffled the 2 ads in Rentsville that represented my mail, and lit a cigarette when the phone rang. Hello?
Larry Slade. I hear you want to see me. What about?
I don't do business over the phone. Come in and...
Yeah, and walk right into a police stakeout?
Okay, so I'll come to see you. Where?
If it's a plant, you'll never walk away from it.
Where?
The end of Pier 6, East River. Make it 3:30 sharp.
I'll be there.
Come alone. Because if you don't, you'll have plenty of company when you leave. They'll be carrying it.
Pier 6 was a deserted strip that stretched out into the murky water of East River for a quarter of a mile. Anybody walking to the end would be visible for minutes before he reached the end, setting him up as a perfect target. The goose pimples and icicles running down my spine were caused by the cold wind, I think. The rain hadn't let up, and I was drenched by the time I reached the end of the pier. Larry Slade stepped from behind an old rotting shack that had been a watchman's shanty. He looked bigger than a Brahma bull and twice as nasty. Hello, champ. What do you want? The one who killed our wife. Cops think maybe you did.
I can read.
I don't think you did.
That's nice. So,
Give yourself up. I don't want you to take the fall for the killer if you didn't do it.
I don't take any falls for nobody.
You're set up for one right now and don't know it.
You're lying.
Why should I? Ace Daly's the only one got anything to gain by lying.
He wouldn't cost me.
Not unless he needed a fall guy, and he does.
Why don't you tell him that? Hey, Ace.
Busy little man, aren't you, Craig? I tried to get around, only this time I didn't get around fast enough. Looks like you beat me to it, Ace. Looks like I did.
He thinks you're trying to pin the murder on me, Ace.
Now, why would I want to do that, Larry? Why would I want to frame the guy who's giving me my alibi?
Your alibi? He hasn't even got one for himself. Not after he left Billy DeVore last night.
Oh, yes, he has. Larry came back to the Casa Daly. We were both there together at 4:30 this morning. Now, what do you say to that?
You've had time to cook up a nice little story, haven't you? But coming from the two principal suspects, I doubt if the police will take your word for it. You'll have to think of something better than that to prove you were really there.
Don't worry. We can. After he got home, Judge Adair called me up to talk things over.
That's funny. The judge didn't mention it to me. But then maybe you haven't had a chance to give him his briefing yet.
Don't worry, Craig. He'll back us up.
Will he, Ace? Aren't you forgetting something?
What?
You can't help him now. When the story of your little deal gets out and the papers tie it in with this murder, your support would be the kiss of death. His only chance of re-election now is to wash his hands of you as fast as he can and try to make hay on the other side.
Now, wait a minute.
Sorry, Ace, but I gotta go see the judge. I'd kind of like to hear what he has to say before he's had any coaching.
Stop him, Slade.
What do you want me to do?
You're the champ. Figure it out for yourself.
Larry Slade grinned, licked his lips. He hunched his left shoulder a bit, and I saw the punch start somewhere near the tip of the shoe, but I couldn't get my jaw out of the way fast enough. It landed like a ton of bricks, and the pier came up and slapped me in the face. I don't know how long I was out. Could have been minutes, probably. It was only seconds. Both Ace and Slade were gone when I opened my eyes. I couldn't find it in my heart to regret their going. All I could do was hope that they were going to the wrong place if they wanted to locate Judge Adair. I managed to get a cab and gave the driver my office address. When I got there, two people were at my door tying the knob. Even in the semi-gloom, I had no difficulty making out the sleek lines of Louise Adair as one. The other was her father. Looking for me?
Oh,
I thought you'd forgotten our 4 o'clock appointment. I've thought of something you should know.
Good. Let's go inside where we can talk. Make yourselves comfortable.
I suppose we really should have told the police, but Dad preferred to talk to you first.
Well, let's have it.
I think I know who killed your client.
I thought you might. Judge Adair, after you and your daughter got home this morning, did you phone the Casa Daly?
Why, how did you know about that?
Then you did make the call.
Why, yes, about 4:30.
Well, there goes the old ball game. I thought that Ace was lying.
But Ace wasn't there. No one answered the phone.
He didn't? Why didn't you tell me that this morning?
But Dad didn't want to get involved. It would cost him the election.
Cost a man his life.
I finally realized too late. When Daly tried to reach me today...
I see I got here just in time.
Hey!
No, don't you, Daly. I won't tell anything. Don't. Oh, you dirty double-crossing old buzzard.
He's got a gun, Dad!
When the smoke cleared, Ace Daly was sprawled in my doorway. Louise Adair was doing a good job of trying to swallow a fist. The judge stood dazed, staring down at an old .22 target pistol that he still held in his hand. I managed to pin my eyeballs back in their sockets long enough to walk over to Ace. At that moment, the door to my office burst open, and Sergeant Marty Moran came tearing in.
What's going on here? Holy cow, Ace Daly. Who did it?
I'm afraid I did, Sergeant.
It was self-defense. Daly was going to kill both of us. Mr.
Judge shot him, all right.
Why should Daly want to kill you, Judge?
He wanted to keep me quiet. I knew that he'd killed Mr. White.
You were taking an awful chance going up against a pro like Daly with that pea shooter.
I couldn't keep quiet and see him get away with murder. Even if it does cost me the election, I couldn't do it.
Cost you the election? You kidding? You come out of this mess a hero. Delivered a killer all wrapped up. Just too bad Ace Daly didn't kill White.
Didn't kill him?
What do you mean?
Yeah, you better translate that for me, too, Barry.
Daly couldn't have killed White. I was talking to White when the killer knocked. He got up and let him into the apartment.
So?
He wouldn't hire me to hold his hand while he was talking to Daly in a public place, then let him into his apartment.
But Ace could have disguised his voice.
Old wash, baby. White was shot in the back. That means he opened the door to the killer, then turned to lead the way into the apartment. He never would have turned his back on Daly.
In that case, I have a little surprise for you. Ryan, bring Slade in. We picked up Slade waiting outside in Daly's car.
Ace? Who did it? I'm afraid I did, Mr. Slade. I thought he killed White.
Which leaves us only one logical suspect.
Oh, I get it. I'm supposed to be the fall guy, eh? Why, you two-bit Seamus, I'm going to let you have it.
Right in your whiskers. You KO'd the champ.
I owed him that. Holy cow, so I did. Hey, he didn't throw that fight. He's got a glass jaw.
Well, I'll get him out of here and booked.
He didn't kill White either. He never would have used a gun. He'd get a bigger charge out of beating him to a pulp.
Well, if neither of them did kill White, who...
You did, Judge.
What?
And that wasn't self-defense when you shot Ace Daly in my office. It was murder.
That's fantastic. Why should my father kill either of them?
Because White was getting set to break a story that would have blasted your father's chances. Ace knew your father killed him and covered him for your sake. But your father knew when the heat was on, Daly would throw him to the wolves.
But to go up against Daly with a 22.
Ace was a sitting duck. The judge shot him before he knew he was being double-crossed. Using me as a witness that it was self-defense.
Now, see here. This is ridiculous. I was in bed when White was killed.
Sorry, Judge. I went to your house an hour or more after the killing. You were supposed to be in bed, but your hair wasn't even much.
I won't listen to these lies. Tell them, Dad. Tell them.
What's the use, Louise? I took a long chance and lost. I killed them.
Well, they can't prove a thing.
Yes, they can, now that they know the story. I left too many traces.
Why did you kill White, Judge?
I had to. My only hope of escaping prosecution for malfeasance was to be re-elected to cover what I had done during my last term. I would have done anything to be re-elected. Even come to blows with a thug like Daly.
Don't talk, Dad. They can't prove a thing.
It's no use, my dear. I'm ready to make a full statement.
Okay, boys, take the judge out. We'll book him later. For murder, I guess. Barry? While we're waiting for the medical examiner, tell me...
Not now, Marty. I've got an important date.
Anybody I know?
Lily DeVore.
You crazy? That's the champ's girl. He's plenty jealous.
Plenty jealous, but I just found out he's got a glass jaw. So long, Marty. So long, folks. See you next week.
You have just heard Barrie Craig, Confidential Investigator, starring William Gargan. Next week, another exciting transcribed story starring America's #1 detective, William Gargan, as Barrie Craig, Confidential Investigator. Tonight's script was written by Frank Kane and featured Santos Ortega as Ace Daly. Edward King directed. Your announcer is Don Pardo. All names and places mentioned in this program are fictitious, and any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental.
Three times mean good times on NBC. Till we meet again next Wednesday for another hard-hitting adventure with Barrie Craig, Confidential Investigator, let me give you a brief rundown of the adventure shows you can hear on NBC. Tomorrow night on NBC, there are a trio of action programs starting off with Mr. Keene, Tracer of Lost Persons, as he investigates the rich young widow murder case. Then, Dragnet brings you another authentic criminal case history as taken from the files of the Los Angeles police. Later, Counter-Spy is called in to solve the case of the Kilroy gang. And then on Saturday, screen actor Brian Donlevy takes you down the shadow-filled corridors of mystery on another dangerous assignment. Later Saturday evening, there's adventure in the realm of international intrigue with Mr. Moto. Then on Sunday, Douglas Fairbanks is featured in The Silent Men, with authentic action stories about your government security agent. On Monday, Herbert Marshall comes to the NBC microphone to assume the mysterious identity of the man called X. And then Tuesday night, hear Big Town, and another pulse-quickening story as told by editor Steve Wilson of the Illustrated Press. Yes, there's always hard-hitting adventure based on the drama that is Big Town. Well, there you have a complete roundup of the top mystery shows you can hear on NBC. And then, next Wednesday night, we hope you'll be back with us for another adventure with William Gargan as Barrie Craig, confidential investigator. Now, it's Meredith Wilson's Music Room.
Welcome back. Well, a pretty good beginning. This, of course, I should say, was not the very first episode of Barrie Craig. This is the third one. The first one, The Simultaneous Man, and Second Man, Murder in Duplicate We Don't Have. This episode was from October 17th of 1951, and it's pretty usual with the Craig mysteries. Twisted until the end in terms of figuring out who did it. All right, well, we do have one quick comment before we go. Please get Poirot podcast. I've switched almost all of my podcasts to you because I love the background info to each story. Starting when I switched to your Dragnet series, and like a domino effect, I now listen to Great Detectives. Pat Novak and Box 13 are my top picks. Sherlock is in a realm of its own, and I've heard them all several times. Great job. Can't go to sleep without a story or two anymore. Well, thanks so much. That was from Care and posted over on Facebook. We definitely will be doing some stories with Poirot. And be sure to be listening. Into August, we'll be talking about what shows we plan to do in the 2011-2012 season, which will start up in late October. All right, well, that'll do it for today. Join us tomorrow for Rogues Gallery. Well, before we get into today's episode of Rogues Gallery, I want to encourage you, if you've not already, to check out Audible. Audible is a great service. You get one audiobook or audio drama per month, as well as a discount on any additional purchases you might make throughout the month, and a complimentary subscription to your choice of the audio version of the New York Times or the audio version of the Wall Street Journal. Audible is great for people who are on the go and don't have time to do all the reading they know they should. You can try Audible out and get a free audiobook by going to audibletrial.com/greatdetectives. That's audibletrial.com/greatdetectives. Well, let's go ahead and we will take a listen to today's episode, Murder with Muriel.
The F.W. Fitch Company presents Dick Powell as Private Detective Richard Rogue. In Rogues Gallery.
Rogue speaking. Well, tonight we meet a sort of an unusual girl. Her name is Muriel, and she's quite a personality. The name of the story is Murder with Muriel. But before we get into our story, here's Jim Doyle, the man from the Fitch Company.
Are you looking for a smooth shave, men? Then try Fitch's No Brush Shaving Cream. It'll give you the kind of shave you want because 40 years of experience have gone into the making of this product. Fitch's No Brush contains a special skin conditioner ingredient that takes the work out of shaving. You won't have to struggle and scrape against stubborn whiskers because the skin conditioner prepares your face beforehand. It holds the whiskers up so your razor can zip them down closely and quickly. Even against the grain of a tough beard, your razor will glide swiftly, never nicking or scraping. Fitch's No Brush is a boon to sensitive faces because it lubricates gently, keeping that tender skin from being irritated. After this quick, easy shave, your skin will feel cool and refreshed, wonderfully smooth.
And if you prefer a lather cream, try Fitch's Brush Cream. It forms a rich, abundant lather when applied with a brush. This lather stays moist all during the shave. Fitch's Brush Cream also contains the special skin conditioner for sensitive faces.
Fitch's Brush and Fitch's No Brush shaving cream are available in handy 25 and 50-cent sizes. For a shave you like, switch to Fitch.
Thank you, Jim. Now I'd like to tell my story.
Okay, here's Dick Powell as Private Detective Richard Rogue in another personally conducted tour through Rogue's Gallery.
I was sitting at my junior executive type desk one day a few months ago, trying to get a studious gander at the racing form for the next day. I had planned to attend and contribute a quick $48 outside to the improvement of the breed of thoroughbreds racing at the track. $48, that's 6 across the board, 8 races, 6/8. That's right, 48. Well, anyway, I was working on a case for an insurance company, and they'd assigned a big company detective with his brains and his feet to help me. His real job was to watch me, and he did. His girl was mad at him, and he spent all his time writing torchy poetry to her. I didn't mind that, but the big goon read it to me. That made it personal.
Hey, listen to this one, will you, Rogie?
Oh, no, I'm busy. Can't you see, Joe?
This'll put her in her place. Listen. Gee, Cupid stupid. His dart in my heart I trusted. Now my heart's busted. He sent me an Aphrodite who's awful flighty. Don't trust Cupid. He's stupid. That's a dilly, ain't it? I'm going to send it to Rose special delivery.
That ought to bring her right back to you with a club in her hand. Why don't you give the dame up, Joe?
Oh, you don't understand, Rogie. I love her.
I'm looking for Richard Rogue.
Yeah? What do you want?
I've got a message for you. I want to talk to you. Privately.
Okay. Come on in here. Look, I'm a busy guy today. What do you want? What's your name?
I'm Joe Layton. Have you had a letter from Duke Dickerson?
No.
You know him, don't you?
Well enough to lend him money, if that answer your question.
Well, he needs some dough.
Tough. He still owes me.
He's got some stashed in a tin box out in the valley. He wants it. He wants us to get it for him.
Go on.
He's planted the dough out in the valley.
Yeah? Get to the point.
Well, he's mailed half of a map to me and the other half to you. A map showing just where the dough is buried. We're to go get it together. I get the $2,500 he owes me, and you get the $100 he owes you, plus $1,000 for the job. And Duke gets the rest. Okay?
Sure. I'll take a drive out into the valley for 1,100 skins anytime. But I haven't got the map yet.
Well, he mailed it day before yesterday. It should be here.
Well, it isn't. Drop around about noon tomorrow. Maybe it'll come in the morning mail.
The Duke needs the dough pretty bad. He's got himself in a bit of a jam in Kansas City. We'll get that dough tomorrow, huh?
There's something about money I like. I think maybe it's the feeling of power it gives me when the rent is paid. Anyway, this spook shoved off, and I went back into the outer office where Joe Black was poised penning some more poetry. The phone rang, and I thought twice before I answered it. It was almost 6 o'clock, and I had plans for that evening. But I finally gave in to its yammering. Rogue Detectives, Richard Rogue speaking.
Hello, Mr. Rogue. I must see you right away.
Sorry.
It's a matter of life and death, Mr. Rogue. I'm afraid.
What's the matter? What's your name?
Muriel Scott. Please, come to the Rialto Theater. I can't be seen talking to you. I'm in the aisle seat, center aisle, 3 rows down from the rear of the theater, on the right-hand side out of the center aisle. The seat next to mine is vacant. Please meet me there as soon as possible. Please, hurry.
Okay, wait there.
Who was that, Rogie?
Oh, now, look, Blackie, it was private business. Why don't you run along home now and get some rest?
Oh, no. The boss told me to stick with you, and that's what I'm going to do. You're tricky, you know. We don't trust you.
Oh, look, Oh, hello. What are you doing here, Urban?
Just dropped in to ask you a few questions, Rogue.
Good evening, Lieutenant Urban.
Hello, Blackie. Go wait in the hall. I want to talk with Rogue.
Yes, sir.
Now, what's on your mind?
You know a guy by the name of Layton? Joe Layton?
Yeah. Name sounds familiar. Why?
He just left here, didn't he?
Well, he's been here. What's that to you?
What do you want to see you about?
Well, I don't see how that could possibly affect you, old man. He came to see me on private business. That's all the talking I'm going to do. How'd you know he was here, anyway?
I just took a card off him. He had your name and address on it. What did he want to see you about, Rogue?
He didn't mention your name. How come you'd be shaking Joe Layton down? Is he pinched?
No, he isn't in any trouble with the police, Rogie. I picked him up about a block from here a while ago. He'd been robbed and murdered.
Well, this was a fine time for Joe Layton to get dead. Just when he meant $1,100 to me. I went down to the morgue with Urban to look at the body. What I really went for was a quick look through his personal effects. There was no sign of half a map. That's all I wanted to know. Urban put me on the fire for a while, trying to get me to tell him all I knew about Layton, but I didn't crack, and I left about 10:30 to drive back to my office. My shadow, Blackie, was right behind me. When I walked into the office, the phone was ringing. Rogue Detectives, Richard Rogue speaking.
Mr. Rogue, you didn't come to the theater.
Oh, I'm sorry, Muriel. Something else came up that demanded my immediate attention.
But I must see you right away. It's a matter of life or death.
But I can't.
There's a $500 fee waiting here for you for just a few minutes' work. Please, Mr. Rogue.
Huh? Oh, where are you?
I'm at the Shady Glade Motel out in the valley. You know where it is?
Oh, sure. I've passed it 1,000 times.
Will you come right out? Please. Cabin number 4.
You say there's $500 waiting there for me? You got it there?
Yes. Please hurry. I'm frightened to death.
Well, I just had 1,100 skin shot out from under me, and I decided I couldn't afford to be too temperamental about a sure 500. So I ran down the stairs to my car and took off for the Shady Glade Motel and the lady with the seductive voice. It was a long drive from my office, and I spent my time trying to figure out how I was going to get in touch with Duke Dickinson and deal myself back in on that buried treasure deal. I couldn't tell whether Blackie had managed to tail me on this trip or not. There was so much traffic on the pass. Well, anyway, I pulled up at the Shady Glade and knocked at the door of cabin number 4.
You're Mr. Rogue?
Yeah?
Come in.
Well, get it off your chest, lady.
Please, sit down.
Okay, but I'm in a kind of a hurry. Let's make this as brief as possible.
All right. Would you care for a drink?
I'd love one. But look, you were tearing your hair out a half hour ago. I got here as soon as I could by breaking a few speed laws. Now, before we get social, what's the deal?
I'm in trouble, Mr. Rogue.
I'll take it from here, Muriel.
Huh? Oh, a reception committee with artillery, huh? Well, how about giving me a quick rundown on what's the deal? What do you want from me?
You know a man by the name of Joe Layton?
Yeah, I knew him. And I know what happened to him.
You wouldn't want it to happen to you, would you?
I don't insist on it.
Get out of here, Muriel.
I'll stay.
Get into the other room. Go on.
All right, Shep.
All right now, Rogue. Let's get down to business. You had company today, didn't you? Layton was up to see you.
That's right. Everybody seems to know that.
What do you mean?
Well, the cops came to see me later. Took me down for a little questioning. You see, they knew Layton called on me, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When you shook him down for that map, you should have taken that card with my name and address off of him.
And he can't think of everything. I want your half of that map, Rogue.
I don't have it.
Don't lie to me, Rogue. Just give me your half of the map.
I don't have it. But even if I did, name me a reason why I should give it to you.
Where is it?
I don't have it. That's all I know.
I'll give you $5,000 for it, Rogue.
Huh? Why should I sell it to you?
I had to kill a man for half that map. I don't want to have to kill you unless it's absolutely necessary, Rogue.
Believe me, I hope it won't come to that. Now, look, pretty boy. I don't have the letter, and killing me or keeping me here won't make you much of a score.
Where is the letter?
Why should I tell you? Let's face it, chum.
Is it in your office?
I haven't received it yet. It'll probably be in the morning's mail tomorrow. This is not getting anybody someplace.
I'll do the worrying about that.
Yeah? Well, while you're worrying, take a look behind you. You got company.
No. I'm surprised that you try to run that old bluff like that on me.
You think it's a bluff? Hey, Blackie.
Drop that gun, mister. I couldn't miss you from here.
You better drop it, pretty boy. My friend Joe Black is a very nervous type.
Yeah. Drop it.
Okay.
Oh, that's a nice guy. Look, Blackie, I'll hold the gun on this citizen. There's a girl in the bedroom. Go get her.
All right, Rogie.
What are you going to do with me, Rogue?
I haven't made any plans yet. You'll be taken care of. Don't worry.
Why don't we keep this to ourselves, Rogue? There's plenty.
Hey, Rogue, there's no dame in here.
What?
The window's open and she's gone. I heard a car pull away just as I came in here.
Oh, that's fine. That's great.
Well, it isn't my fault, Rogie. I did what you told me to, and...
Muriel got away, huh?
That's right. She got away. But we've still got the main attraction. That's you.
Look, Rogue, there's no reason why we can't make a deal. I'm perfectly willing to cut you in for half the money.
How big of you. You have to watch those generous impulses, Shep. Next thing you know, you'll be giving away the sleeves out of your vest. Hey, Blackie.
Yeah?
You just declared yourself in on 5 bills, okay?
Sure. What do I do?
Shake him down. I want half of a hand-drawn map.
There's no point in us working against each other, Rogue.
Shut up.
Here. I'll get it for you.
Keep your hands away from your pockets.
Yeah, just keep them up in the air, and I won't have to break your thick skull.
Toss me his wallet, Blackie.
Quit squirming, you.
Yeah.
There you are, Rogie. And a nice wallet it is, too. Maybe you'll let me have it, huh, Rogie? After you've taken the map out, of course.
That's what I love about you, Blackie. You have such big ideas. Well, quite a bit of dough here. And a driver's license. Glad to see that you're a law-abiding citizen, Shep. Oh, now, here it is. A little piece of paper worth 25 grand.
Now, look, Rogue. Suppose I work with you. Just cut me in for 5 grand.
A little late for that, Shep. Blackie.
Yeah?
I'm afraid our friend Shep might be a burden. You'd better put him to sleep for a while.
You mean like this?
Oh. You're so enthusiastic, Blackie. Now let's get him tied up and slip him under a bed until we need him again, shall we?
Of course. Hey, hadn't we better call in the cops, Rogie?
Well, I didn't want the cops in on this deal yet. They get so inquisitive about murderers. I knew that Shep was as safe as a royal flush against 3 deuces, so I left him there all tied up like a bow tie. I gave Blackie the slip and went to my apartment to get a little sleep. I opened the door and walked into a surprise party.
Hello, Rogie. Where you been?
What are you doing in my apartment, Urban?
Waiting for you to get home.
You got a warrant?
Oh, now, Rogie, are we going to get technical?
What do you want?
You decided to tell me what you know about the killing of Joe Layton?
No.
You might be making a mistake, Rogue. You know, sometimes you need a guy like me. What are you working on?
I don't report to you, Urban. Go away.
I've known you for a long time, Rogie. You're declaring yourself in on Layton's murder. I don't think you did it, but I think you know more than you're talking.
Now, look, I've got a stake in this case. If I crack it, I'll let you know in time to get your picture in the papers. Will you settle for that?
You're on the level, aren't you, Rogie?
Well, you know I am. I've worked with you this way before, haven't I? Have I ever given you a bum pitch?
No.
Good night, Lieutenant.
Good night, Richard. You have any ideas of slipping me a double cross, Rogie? Forget it. I've got a cell waiting for you, and I'm not above framing you. Remember that.
I knew Urban wasn't kidding, and I had an impulse to call him back and tell him about the murder I had put away for him in that motel. But I thought better of it. As the door closed behind Urban, I heard another door open behind me.
Hello, Mr. Rogue.
Muriel. Why, honey, this is...
Put up your hands.
Huh?
I'm going to get that map if I have to kill you.
We'll return to our story in just a moment. But first, I'd like to tell you that glamorous women the country over are using Fitch's saponified shampoo for greater hair beauty. Here's what lovely Bess Meyerson, recently awarded the title of Miss America of 1945, told us in an interview.
A long time ago, I discovered that part of being beautiful was being clean. So I keep my hair clean by shampooing it as often as I feel it needs it. I use Fitch's saponified shampoo because it does not dry my hair or make it difficult to manage, no matter how often I shampoo it.
Yes, beautiful women everywhere use Fitch's saponified shampoo. It does not dry the hair because it's made from mild vegetable and coconut oils. Even in hard water, it gives lots of rich, fragrant lather. It cleanses efficiently and gently. And here's a feature all women will cheer. Fitch's saponified shampoo contains its own patented rinsing agent. This rinsing agent works with the plain rinse water to make your hair sparkling clean. No particles are left to dim the luster and highlights of the hair. Best of all, you won't need to bother with a special after rinse. Give your hair a treat. Use Fitch's saponified shampoo. You can get a professional application at your beauty or barber shop, or ask for an economical bottle at your drug counter. Richard Rogue is involved in an affair concerning $25,000 in buried treasure. There's a girl in the affair named Muriel Scott, and right this minute, the lovely Muriel is an uninvited guest in Rogue's apartment, where she's holding Rogue at the end of a .45 automatic.
I love girls, especially girls with Muriel's gifts. She had the kind of a figure that you'd like to add to your income tax, and a little baby face that made me want to hold her on my lap and tell her a story. But that gun changed everything. It ruined the intimate, romantic atmosphere that I would have preferred.
Take your revolver out of the holster and drop it. Come on, I know how to use this gun.
Okay.
Now back away from it.
You know, I have a strange feeling that you've lived through this before.
I have. Keep backing. Okay.
Now what?
Sit down.
Thanks. How'd you get in here?
Through the window, the one of the fire escape. Now, what time is the first mail delivery at your office in the morning?
Oh, it's about 9:30.
I heard you tell Shep that the map would be there in that mail.
I'm expecting it.
Good. I'll get it then. What did you do with Shep?
He's okay.
Is he in jail?
No, he isn't. I want my hands on that dough before I yell for the cops.
I want my hands on that dough, too, and I'm going to get them there.
Are you, comfortable?
Yeah, don't worry about me.
Look, baby, I want some coffee. How about you?
Just stay where you are.
Oh, but look, beautiful, it's only 11:30. It's 10 hours before the mail arrives.
I can stay awake 10 hours at $2,500 an hour, easy.
It's too bad you're so hard to get along with. Oh, a very beautiful dame, you know it?
Yeah, I know it. Just keep your seat, Mr. Rogue.
I don't know whether you're going to like coffee the way I make it or not, Muriel.
It'll be all right.
Are you sure you don't want me to hold the gun while you make the coffee?
Go ahead, make the coffee and stop talking.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, but you'd better listen to my proposition. We could do a lot together with 25 grand. Ever been to Rio? More toast?
Thanks, Reggie. You know, you make pretty good coffee.
And you make pretty good toast, Angel. Lots of butter. And you know that costs points?
We won't need them in Rio, will we?
No. We're gonna make beautiful music together, baby. You know it? How did you ever get mixed up in a deal like this, anyway?
Oh, he came through Pittsburgh.
I know the town well.
He spent a lot of money on me, and I thought I was living.
You're too nice a girl to go around pointing guns at people. What did you do with that cannon, anyway?
I left it on the kitchen table.
Oh. You comfortable?
A few more hours and you can go pick up that money, huh, baby?
Yeah. 25 grand.
You know something, honey?
What?
I can just barely remember Shep.
it's 9 o'clock, honey. Let's get going, shall we?
We'll just about make it, huh?
Yeah.
I hope that map's in the morning mail, don't you?
Well, it will be, don't worry. Come on, I'll help you with your coat.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, where'd you get it? It's a nice mink.
Shep stole it. For me. He was a petty larceny guy, wasn't he?
Let's not think about him, Angel. Come on. We're on our way to the office and that letter.
And Rio?
Could be. Well, we're here. Now, you stay in the car. I don't know whether there'll be any cops up there or not. And if I'm not back in 5 minutes, shove off. And I'll meet you in the lobby of the Hotel Bellevue in an hour.
Oh? You're not going to take me to the office with you?
No.
Then leave me the half of the map you took from Shep. I want to know you're coming back.
Oh, sure, baby. Here you are. Now, you happy?
Yes, I'm happy. Hurry, though, will you?
I'll be back in a minute, beautiful. If I'm not, remember what I told you to do, huh?
I'll be in the lobby of the Bellevue if you aren't back in 5 minutes, right?
If that letter was in my office, I had this case whipped like Simon Legree had Uncle Tom. Then my wishbone was in my throat as I rode up to my office. The elevator had always seemed slow, but this morning it seemed to be going backwards. With just a few more breaks now, I'd be back at home base, like the Third Fleet. I walked into the office, and there sat my shadow, Joe Black. I pitched him some fast double talk about ditching him last night, ran through the mail, found the letter from Duke Dickinson with a map. While I was jumping up and down and clapping my hands, I told Blackie what I wanted him to do. And then Muriel and I took off for the treasure hunt with a spade.
Are you sure this is the right path?
Sure. I got the map right here, haven't I? Look up ahead. There's the big rock he's got on. See?
Uh-huh.
And there's the tree.
Look, Rogie.
Oh, the gun of you. Put it back.
If you have any plans about taking this money yourself...
Oh, will you cut it out? Put that rock
I just
back in
want
your
you
bag,
to know I've
now?
still got it and I can use it.
Oh, but look, baby. Remember me?
Oh, I suppose I'm a chump. I'll put the gun away. Just for you. You big, handsome cutthroat.
Well, I paced off the location of that hidden treasure just like it said on the map, feeling a little like Captain John Silver as I did it, and then I exposed my poor aching back to the unaccustomed labor of making a hole in the ground with a spade. I will never be a fan of digging. I like my spades 5 at a time, preferably running from the ace down to the 10 with a lot of dough in the middle of the table instead of in the middle of the pasture. But I dug.
Are you sure you're digging in the right place?
Sure. Decided in on that tree and that big rock. And if that petty larceny crook of a Duke Dickinson thinks this is funny, I'll personally hit... Hey, pay dirt. Hear it?
Yes. Hurry, Rogie. Dig it out.
What, do you want this shovel? I'm digging as fast as I can. There it is. I see the top of it.
Be there. 25,000.
Well, baby, there it is. 25 grand. You want to count it?
Let me have it, Rogie.
Here, baby, you take care of it for a while, huh? Put it in your bag and let's get back to town and celebrate, beautiful.
All right.
Just hold that close. Both of you, hold it.
Hey, what is this?
Get up. Give me your bag, lady. Come on, lady. I don't want to have to shoot any holes in that pretty dress you're wearing. Come on, give me that bag.
No, I won't.
Next time I slap you with this rod. Now, give me that bag. Get your hands away from that coat there, mister. Thanks. Now, march.
You look familiar to me, tough stuff.
Yeah? Maybe I'd better put you away, huh?
Duke Dickinson must have sent out a bulletin to all his friends.
Shut up. Lay down on your faces, both of you. Now. Shut up, lady. I just shot a couple of holes in your tires, that's all. Now, just take it easy and don't move until I'm out of here. Thanks for the dough.
Come on in the office, baby. Now, buck up and stop crying.
don't suppose you're going to pay any attention to me now that the money's gone. You probably forget me as soon as you can.
Ah, baby. Oh, hi, Urban.
Hello, Rogue.
Who's this?
A cop.
What's he doing here?
He's here after you, baby.
Oh, Richard. He wouldn't turn me into the...
Hate to interrupt, but, what's the score, Rogue?
This little girl helped to kill Joe Layton. The guy who worked with her is under the bed at cabin number 4 at the Shady Glade Motel.
How could you do this to me? After all the things you said and...
It's not easy. But you see, baby, I don't approve of murder. Especially not in this neighborhood. Gives a block a bad name.
Oh, no. No, Richard.
Better take her away, Urban, before I take her away from you. She's a beautiful girl, isn't she?
Richard. Oh, Richard. Richard.
Well, that's the story. Of course, you recognize my old friend Joe Black as a hold-up man. You see, I figured that when Muriel and Shep went on trial, I would have less explaining to do if they thought some stranger had finally come up with the 25 grand. I gave Joe his 500 like I said I would. He beefed a little, but he took it. And then I took the 100 Duke owed me and 1,000 for the job that was agreed on, and then I took the 2,500 that Joe Layton was supposed to get and sent it to Muriel's mother. Layton didn't have any use for it in the morgue. And I sent the rest to Duke in Kansas City. Made a nice score altogether, but I still wake up in the middle of the night when I dream of Rio and Muriel and that trip we were going to take. The money's spent, but the dreams linger on. They're wonderful. This is Dick Powell again, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you noticed that I didn't get hit on the head in tonight's story. It was nice for a change. I hope you like the yarn. Ray Buffum wrote it, Lee Stevens composed and conducted the music, and Dee Engelbach produced and directed. I want to remind you to make a date with us the next Thursday night. We're going to get mixed up in a strange affair about a photograph. We call it photo finish. Be on hand for the developing, will you? Thanks for listening and good night, all. Now here's Jim Doyle.
Don't forget to tune in again next Thursday, same time, same station, when you'll again hear Dick Powell as Richard Rogue in Rogue's Gallery. Remember, if dandruff is your problem, ask for Fitch's Dandruff Remover Shampoo. Removes dandruff the first time it is used. Fitch's Dandruff Remover Shampoo is the only shampoo whose guarantee to remove dandruff is backed by one of the world's largest insurance companies. This statement can be made by no other shampoo. Ask for Fitch's Dandruff Remover Shampoo at your drug counter, barber, or beauty shop. Fitch is spelled F-I-T-C-H.
Welcome back. Well, in some ways, with the double crosses that ended up occurring in this story, I was slightly reminded of the Maltese Falcon, which of course had Sam Spade turning over Bridget O'Shaughnessy as the murderer. So it kind of evoked that. But this was actually a kind of a one-off episode with the character of Joe Black. Indeed, there's a lot of supporting cast in every episode. It just changes every episode as well, seems like. I also think that I've now officially, with that Uncle Tom simile, run across the most unfortunate simile in the history of hard-boiled radio detectives. I doubt anybody's going to beat that one. Well, we have a couple comments on the arrival of Rogue's Gallery on our lineup. Benjamin writes on Facebook, sad to see Nero Wolfe go, but this show is great. I couldn't believe the money being talked about. In today's money, he was offered over $60,000 to walk away and forget about the girl. And this, of course, referenced our first episode, Blondes Prefer Gentlemen. And it's understandable when you think about it, as you're dealing with murder and the penalties and everything that goes with that. You know, if you can shut that up so that the conviction doesn't occur, you're going to pay a very high premium to do that. And I definitely agree with the thought that it was, that's one of the and downside of the show. I always hate when we get to the end of these programs, which I enjoy, but with our format, it means that there's a new program that we're able to play. So it's always a happy, sad sort of moment. Kyle said, I'm only just finding the first Rogues Gallery. I'm very happy that you've finally gotten this show on yours. I hope that you can get The Adventures of the Falcon. It is very much like this one. Thank you so much for this fabulous podcast. I listen mostly from my iPod, so I get the episodes a little late, but still enjoy them immensely. Well, thank you very much, and that one's from Kyle. We definitely have the Falcon on the list of shows that we'd like to do someday. I will say, I don't know if I would quite put it in the same league as Rogues Gallery, but it's an interesting program. Got a comment from James who says, I'm curious about the last episode of Pat Novak and the reworking of it for another web show's Pete Kelly's Blues. Just wanted to know if you had any stories about that. And of course, this references the Pat Novak for Hire Little Jake episode. And they basically, the basic thing is that Pete Kelly's Blues was a summer replacement show, and we will get into that in a bit, that was running at the exact same time as Webb was doing Dragnet. I'd suggest they cut a corner there and reuse part of the script from the Little Jake episode. They didn't use the full script. It is basically the same sort of lead-in, but the rest of the episode was different. But maybe we'll talk about that more when we get into Pete Kelly's Blues. Well, that'll do it for today. We will be back Wednesday with Let George Do It. Well, before we get started with this week's episode of Let George Do It, I want to encourage you to be sure and check out the weekly blog post we do at greatdetectives.net. These articles we post each week will be about old-time radio, golden age detective stories, and even sometimes some more modern detective stories. So if you're interested in classic television, classic movies, and mysteries, check it out, greatdetectives.net. You can also have new posts automatically delivered to your Kindle, and you can try that service out free. Just put Great Detectives of Old Time Radio in the search box on Amazon.com. With that said, we're going to play today's episode. It's called Juniper Lane.
Personal notice. Danger's my stock and trade. If the job's too tough for you to handle, you got a job for me, George Valentine. Write full details.
Standard Oil Company of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West, invites you to Let George Do It. Juniper Lane, another adventure of George Valentine.
I am writing this most tardily, I fear. Christmas has come and gone, and the New Year, too. But perhaps the trembling of my hand will explain it. I could not write before this or drop by. The two faithful guardians of my confinement, the butler and the maid, will bear witness to the degree of my suffering. A suffering that is so prevalent among us here in Juniper Lane. Yes, I shamefacedly admit that my writing to you has been delayed by a common cold. And so, my good Aunt Bess, please accept my apologies and know that the pair of brown wristlets which you so thoughtfully knitted for me as a Christmas gift were most gratefully received.
Huh? What's all that, Brooksy?
That's what the letter says, George.
Wristlets?
Those old-fashioned things like a glove with no fingers. Keep your wrists warm.
Oh, yeah. Well, who wrote this letter? What's the signature?
There isn't any.
Heading?
Isn't any?
Well, pretty simple, I guess. Just a mix-up of mail. One thing I know. I'm not Aunt Bess.
Oh, I thought you'd enjoy it, that's all. Now we can get back to our own knitting. The next letter...
Hey, don't tear that thing up.
Why not?
The envelope, let me see. George Valentine, proper address. So whoever wrote this thank you note also wrote to me. Then got the envelopes mixed.
Absent-minded professor, maybe. He sounds sort of stuffy.
Yeah, that's probably a man, all right. And the words he uses. He's sure not young. Butler and maid. Might be wealthy. Now, a guy like that wouldn't be writing to me unless it was pretty important, would he, Brooksy? Maybe something dangerous. Maybe frightening. Come on.
What? But, George, you don't even know his name.
I'm not thinking about him, Angel. I'm thinking of crossed envelopes. Of who must have got the letter that was intended for me.
Aunt Beth.
That's right. We have to find her. Think how she'll be feeling when she opens her morning's mail. A little old lady who knits wristlets and who lives in a place called Juniper Lane.
Sure it's Juniper Lane, Bud. What'd you think it was? Barclay Square?
Well, at first we didn't even realize it was right here in the city.
Bounded on the north by Industrial Street, on the south by Noise, Gasworks to the east, and the west is too smoky.
Yeah, I get the idea. Is Juniper Lane just one block long?
It's a dead end. Dead at both ends.
Now, you own the only store on this street. The rest are all brownstones. So maybe you've heard of somebody's Aunt Bess.
Everybody's Aunt Bess.
What?
Bess Bothwell, a good Queen Bess. Used to run a millinery shop. Always claimed she made a hat for Queen Mary.
Well, go on.
Yeah, great little lady. Lives at the head of the street, number 1. Aunt Bess owns Juniper Lane, Mac.
Well, come on, Brooksy. Let's visit the Queen Bee.
Mr. Valentine, Felix McCoy, the cigar man, has been with us for years. He's so kind to the children.
Yeah, sure. Kind to his mother, too, I bet. But look, Miss Bothwell...
I'm sure you have nice points. Everyone does.
Miss Bothwell, what we really came to see you about...
And you too, my dear. You too. In the world outside, it is different, I'm told. That's very tragic, and I weep about it sometimes. I can't help it. But somehow the tears come out happy in Juniper Lane. And then I find myself laughing because...
Miss Bothwell, all I came here to ask you was
How
if you...
could you understand about Juniper Lane? You've never seen the tree, have you?
Look, would you...
What tree, Miss Bothwell?
Why, the juniper tree, of course. It used to be on the street, but now it's on the window. I put it there.
On the window?
Yes, of course. I'll show you. It's much nicer. There. I painted it there on the glass. It's the greenest tree in the city. That's what I'm told, though I've never been there. There were lots of trees on this street long ago.
Miss Bothwell, it's a beautifully painted juniper, all right, but may we talk about your knitting? Knitting wristlets?
Oh, there it's happened again. I might have known when you came in asking for Miss Bothwell. But I like to pretend I have friends, too. That I am important, too. And though I don't really want to be. It's my sister who knits, Mr. Valentine. It's Beth. She's the wonderful one.
Oh. Well, may I see her, please?
Of course. She's in here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, but this is her bedroom. She's not even awake yet.
No, my dear. It's quite all right. Beth is dead.
While she was sleeping.
It's difficult to keep your mind on things sometimes.
George, what was it? Is there anything...
Her neck. She's been stabbed.
Yes. The knitting needle. I saw that just a few moments ago. I thought she was asleep, too. Oh, I'm so glad you came, Mr. Valentine. I've been all alone here, just staring at the juniper tree. Just wondering what to do.
Clues, what do you mean, clues?
Oh, take it easy, will you, Lieutenant? What time did the doctor say she died?
Sometime before midnight last night. But look, here. Her room's at the head of the stairs, and the front door down there is always left open. And in this neighborhood yet.
So anybody could have walked in, picked up the needle there?
Yes, and the whole street was here last night. The whole street playing homage to good Queen Bess.
What do you mean?
I mean paying rent. The old biddy sat here collecting rent from everyone who lives in this... Valentine, I never even heard of this street before. This relic that's down at the heel.
Yeah, the kind of a place you get unsolved crimes, I know.
Yeah, there's nothing to go on. And that wacky sister, Miss Bothwell, sitting in there, won't talk about anything except how nice old Bess was. How nice Felix
Hey, Riley,
is.
you know what wristlets are?
Huh?
Well, there's nothing to go on except one thing. Nobody to help us except one person.
Yeah? Who?
My letter, Riley. Don't forget it. My letter. And it's my hunch we better find the guy who wrote it.
In this closed-mouthed bunch of... Oh, look, we've already gone through Bess's mail looking for that letter you should have got.
Let's find the guy, Riley. He must have wanted help. He must know something. And all we have to do is look for somebody around here who got wristlets for Christmas.
George.
Oh, it's no use, Angel. Queen Bess always gave everyone in Juniper Lane wristlets for Christmas.
George, come here. Down these steps. Basement apartment.
Yeah?
Listen.
Fugitives
Listen
from
to the
the
man.
junkyard, that's all you are. Holding out your trays, my good and faithful servants. Now, don't you answer me. No, don't you ever answer me. Without food, you won't speak. You never speak. Rusty, dumb, the butler of my bidding. You're laughing at me, aren't you? Laughing at... Oh, I don't blame
Servant,
you. I blame
butler,
me.
in the thank you letter. Remember? Come on.
Well, and to what do I owe the honor of this intrusion? Income tax, census, the Fuller Brush Company?
The name's George Valentine.
Oh, I'd about given you up, Mr. Valentine. Come in, come in.
Your letter got crossed, but you are the one who wrote to us, aren't... Oh.
What troubles you, young lady?
Well, there's nobody here. We heard you talking to... Oh.
Printing presses. Two old-fashioned printing presses.
Permit me. The butler and the maid.
Oh. Newspapers all over the floor. The Juniper Lane shopping news.
But look at the date. July 2nd, 1916.
The last beautiful days of Pompeii. Look at the artwork on the heading. There were trees on our street then, you see. Stores and children. Even a newspaper published by a young fool.
Stevenson Sproat, editor. That's you, huh?
Stevenson Sproat, part-time printer of greeting cards, occasional racing sheets of bills due for the Queen. My two faithful servants here. Oh, stop looking at me that way. I talk to them because I'm lonely. You talk to yourself when you're driving a car, don't you?
Yeah, okay, Mr.
I'm
Sproat.
sour. I'm old. I've been sick, that's all.
Well, why did you write to us in the first place, Mr. Sproat? We didn't get your letter, you know.
Oh, so that's it. Mr. Valentine, do you know what it's like to be a conscience? To be alone, to helplessly watch the steady march of rack and ruin?
Look, don't get carried away. Just tell us
Oh,
what...
yes. The murder. That's all everyone's talking about. The Queen is dead. The Queen was a knave, tyrant, bloodsucker, hypocrite. Out to make as much money out of Juniper Lane as she could. That was what my letter was about.
So you can help us. You do know something
about the danger of Aunt Bess being killed. Of course I do. There's a copy of what I wrote you here someplace. Of course I can help. Oh, here. Now, you listen. Dear Mr. Valentine, you must hurry to prevent a crime. There is a woman in Juniper Lane who is hated by everyone, who is in constant danger of being murdered. But there is one man whom I know for a fact has been planning her death for years. At all costs, he must be stopped before it is too late. That man is me.
return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. A man doesn't have to lift the hood of his car to keep it running, naturally. He can put some gas in the tank, forget all about the vital parts under the hood, and his car will run all right for a while. But if you want both safety and savings for your own car, it's wise to have your station man look under the hood regularly. At standard stations and at independent Chevron gas stations, the under-hood checkup is part of their protective service. That's when they catch a worn fan belt or leaky radiator hose, things that might lead to major repair bills. Another example is regular oil check. Maybe 9 times out of 10 they'll tell you your oil is at the safe level. But when fresh new oil is needed to avoid costly engine damage, that's when protective service pays its own way many times over. A few minutes of your time tomorrow for an under-hood checkup may save you hours of delay and expense the day after. So why not stop at an independent Chevron gas station or at a standard station where they say and mean we take better care of your car. And now back to tonight's adventure of George Valentine. Juniper Lane, a few good people, a few bad, a little excitement Saturday night. Oh, yes, and if you live on Juniper Lane, you get a pair of knitted brown wristlets once a year. Doesn't sound important, does it? Well, if your name is George Valentine, you're no longer asking questions and looking for wristlets and wondering about this 1-block-long street lost in the middle of the city. Now you have begun to find out. And according to Lieutenant Riley, you found out quite enough.
Well, it's plenty good for me, Valentine. Plenty good for me.
Well, of course, Mr. Sproat had the opportunity.
Miss Brooks, he not only had the opportunity, he had the time and the inclination. And besides, he told you he was going to kill Aunt Bess in that letter to you that got lost, didn't he?
Yeah, that's what he said, all right. But he's not saying much now, are you, Mr. Sproat?
A man is supposed to be cautious of what he says at a time like this, isn't he? But fairly obviously, I'm your man. And I assure you it doesn't make much difference what happens to me.
Yes. Now, look, friend, you hated that old dame, didn't you?
She cheated me, Lieutenant. Out of the only business I ever loved, my little pretentious neighborhood shopping news. It went broke in 1916. She made it go broke. She couldn't stand anyone else making money but her.
Good Queen Beth.
Ever hear anyone else call her that but Felix McCoy? I suppose he's made a little money.
Yeah, we know all that.
Nobody else has. It's a street full of has-beens. The Queen was always there to loan money and to pull the drawstrings or boost the rent or twist somebody's arm. Juniper Lane. Like a bunch of rats biting each other. The only one who, not infected, who can still see the tree is Miss Bothwell, her sister. But she has to paint the tree on her window.
All right, Bess Bothwell ruined you, and you did something about it. Come on. We can fill out a confession down at headquarters.
No, I don't believe I'll do that.
Hmm?
I didn't kill her, you know.
You what? You didn't, but you've been saying you've been as good as admitting...
Lieutenant, I may have.
Huh?
It's just that... Well, I might as well have, I said. I've been brooding about it for years.
And you wanted Valentine to stop you from doing it, you said?
Well, of course I wanted him to stop me. Have you ever known what it feels like to commit murder?
There, you just admitted.
Or to feel like you wanted to?
Have I? Oh, brother, may I say...
Wait a minute, hold it, Riley. Let me, will you? Now, Mr. Sproat, you're not quite sure what happened last night, are you?
Oh, please, I'm very tired, but I'm not really...
You're all mixed up, yeah. You've thought about it so long that you're not quite sure whether you did or you didn't do it.
I wish you'd take me down and get it over with.
To make you feel better for wishing her dead? There's no concrete evidence against you, you know. A man doesn't like to admit to this kind of confusion, but... Well, you can't honestly remember last night, can you?
No, I had been drinking a bit. But who else, Mr. Valentine? What if I don't think I really did it? When all's said and done, who hated her as much as I?
Well, don't just stand there, Valentine. Let's keep looking. Juniper Lane. Oh, my. Miss Bothwell, please, you still haven't once mentioned a single thing that happened here last night.
But how could I, Lieutenant, when I wasn't even here?
What's that?
Poor Stevenson's cold has been so bad, you know. And I never could enjoy those people tramping in and out, looking unhappy.
Wait a minute. You were with Mr. Sproat last night?
Of course. To take him a good book and perhaps play a game of pinochle to cheer him up a bit. He's really my only friend. My only close friend here. Faces have changed.
But he never once mentioned it.
How sweet of him. He only mumbled a word or two. He was so tired. So I tidied up a bit and put his bottle away, and then I read the book myself.
Until when?
Oh, no later than 1 or 2 o'clock. Oh, well, really, there's nothing wrong in it. A woman of my age.
And the doc said she died before midnight. Oh, Valentine, now the barn door's really wide open.
My, what a nice expression.
Hey, wait a minute. My letter, Riley. It was sitting there on the hall table. Anybody walking in or out of the house could have seen it, right? Seen it and maybe capitalized on what we know was in it.
Yeah. Sproat's worry about killing her, sure. Blame it on him and he'd make a good fall guy. Only how in the name of...
Yeah, Brooksy.
Come here. The bills, those collections Bess was making last night, they were by her bed.
Yeah?
I checked them against the police list of the neighborhood, and there's only one name that's missing, that there's no bill for.
Yeah?
If his bill is missing, then he might have been the last one up here.
Who?
Felix McCoy.
But what did I say wrong, Lieutenant? That Felix McCoy was Bess's husband? So why should she send him a bill? Oh, really? Sometimes it's very confusing.
Your sister was actually married to that small time...
It was all so long ago that no one remembers. She never even took his name. I hate scandal, don't you?
Oh, Mother McCree.
They did admire one another in a business sense. I haven't even remembered their marriage for years. And now you've made me think about
Take it easy, Miss Bothwell.
And made me think about her being dead. I hadn't thought about her being dead yet. Like all the greenery that used to be along Juniper Lane.
That's pretty late. He's probably in bed by now.
Well, this outside stairway will take us to McCoy's apartment. It's on the second floor.
You know, George, it would make a lot more sense if it's a person like Felix McCoy.
Yeah?
This property Bess owned around here must be worth a good deal. Oh, look. There he is. You can see him through the window.
Sleeping like a baby.
George, the door just opened over there.
It's hard to see.
There's somebody standing there, moving toward the bed.
Come on. How do you get into this place? Balcony door's locked.
George, there's a knife. He's going to stab him.
Stand back.
Hey, you stop!
Hey, it's too late. There's the knife. Riley,
Slow down, will you? Well, I'll be... Well, look what bounced back at us, Valentine.
All right. You don't have to keep your knee in my stomach.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. I'm not going anyplace.
Not this time you're not, Mr. Sproat. Felix dead?
Yeah, Riley.
Well, this time I won't be begging for confessions. Come on, get up.
Take it easy, Riley. He didn't kill him.
Huh?
What's that, Mr. Valentine?
Felix looks like he's been dead for several hours. Only shot to death. Yeah, Riley, this gun was lying here on the floor. Whoever did it pumped all 6 shells into Felix, then pulled up the blank.
Juniper Lane, the whole place is crazy.
Yeah, that's been bothering me, too.
Huh? Yeah. I mean, like Sproat in there with Miss Brooks. He knew where we were, yet he came up here to stab Felix.
Felix was Bess's husband. Long time ago, but I suppose it still sticks.
I'm not sure I like the way it ties together, but it does, and it all points to Miss Bothwell. Sproat, come on in here.
Go ahead, sit down, Mr. Sproat.
Now, look, my fanatic friend. You hated Aunt Bess, but you didn't hate Felix here, did you?
No, he didn't.
Come on, answer me. You came wandering up here to kill him. Now, you didn't care whether you were caught or not. Why? All right, I'll tell you why if you'll answer just one question. Who were you with last night till after 1 o'clock?
What's that?
Were you with somebody in Wide Awake playing pinochle?
Why, yes,
Or, did you fall asleep earlier after a drink and, maybe somebody brought you a book?
Well...
Look, it's no use, Mr. Sproat. You don't even know where you were supposed to have been. You haven't even heard the story she made up yet. That alibi she made up for herself.
Lieutenant.
You're not helping Miss Bothwell anymore. You're a big, noble guy. You knew there wasn't any evidence on the first murder, so you figured that if you got caught for the second one, you'd hang for them both.
My life is worth very little, Lieutenant, but she...
Sure. In your own mind, you'd be the hero who got rid of the wicked witch of Juniper Lane and her shakedown husband. Only I've got a job to do, my friend.
I have nothing to say.
I'd like to talk to Mr. Sproat alone, Riley.
Huh?
So go on over to Miss Bothwell's place, will you? I'll meet you there.
Okay, I've got all I need.
Now, what can either one of you expect me to say, Mr. Valentine? Miss Bothwell is my friend, my only friend.
I wouldn't waste any time with any of that Juniper Lane stuff, Sproat. That brooding about murder.
What's that, Mr. Valentine?
Well, Lieutenant Riley swallowed it, hook, line, and sinker. And why? Because it would never occur to anybody that a guy'd be crazy or smart enough to stab a body that he'd already shot.
Well, what are you talking about?
Now, just stay where you are. To start out with, you mixed up a couple of letters, only you mixed them on purpose. You wanted me to walk into this thing to meet poor Miss Bothwell, to get the setting. The Juniper Lane malarkey that doesn't exist except in her mind. And in the stuff you fed me.
Well, I don't understand. Her sister Bess...
Bess was an old biddy. Probably no better and no worse than a lot of other people. Felix here was a tramp. But even he had his points. But they had dough, didn't they? Yeah. That's what it was all about, Sproat. Simple, hard dough.
Mr. Valentine...
I said stay where you are. This is a gun you're looking at, mister. Remember it? The gun we found here, so don't come any closer. Okay, step one. You killed the old biddy. The next heir was a half-forgotten husband. Step two, you killed him.
You don't know what you're talking about. There's nothing you can prove.
Step three, you killed Felix again and get caught. So the whole thing will hang where you want it to hang, on the next heir to the money, Bess's sister. And you, her noble, her only friend, would get that money about the time Miss Bothwell went to the chair or an asylum.
Why,
now stand still, I said. Who else would she leave her money to but someone who tried to save her?
I've heard enough, Mr. Valentine.
You picked a nice little lady for a fall guy. So peculiar she could never defend herself.
I suppose you're different. I'm in better physical shape than you might think, Mr. Valentine.
You won't be if you get one step closer. I'm warning you.
You're just guessing, my friend. There is no evidence. I'll get you. I've got a knife.
Yeah. It was just a guess until now. Until you did something no man in the world is brave enough to do. You kept walking straight toward the gun that did away with Felix McCoy. When only his murderer would know the gun's harmless. That all the 6 shells had been fired.
Oh, you don't.
But the other end of the gun worked all right. Didn't it, Mr. Sproat?
Quite sure.
Please, Miss Bothwell, that alibi for Mr. Sproat wasn't true, was it? It's the only thing that doesn't fit.
Oh, it wasn't very nice of me to lie. But he asked me to.
Yeah, sure, we understand.
Do you? You're so much younger than I. You have so much more time left to understand about the world.
The world is just the same as your street, Miss Bothwell.
No, it isn't. There's no place like Juniper Lane. It must be perfect. And everyone in it must be good. That's why I lied for Mr. Sproat.
Mm-hmm.
Is it wrong for a lonely old woman to fool herself? I know that I painted that tree there myself, Mr. Valentine. But if you stand right here, the tree's on the curve. And if you stand over here, it's farther down the street.
Sure. All the trees you want in Juniper Lane. Well, you stick to making believe, Miss Bothwell. It's nice.
Sometimes during winter driving, maybe you have the feeling that your car has lost its pep. Last summer, it ran beautifully. Now it starts hard, acts logy in traffic, drags on hills. Maybe it's the gasoline you're using. But just try Chevron Supreme gasoline. It's climate-tailored. Based on year-round weather reports from your driving area, this premium quality gasoline is tailored to meet seasonal variations. And it is further tailored to meet the requirements of the West's different altitude and temperature zones. Try a tankful of Chevron Supreme tomorrow. Right away, you'll notice how much better your car responds. Faster start, smoother pickup in traffic, ping-free power on hills. In fact, you can't buy a better gasoline for today's high-compression engines. Get Chevron Supreme at standard stations and independent Chevron gas stations where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard Oil Company of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West. Robert Bailey is starred as George. Let George Do It is written by David Victor and Jackson Gillis and directed by Don Clark. Virginia Gregg appeared as Brooksy, Wally Mayer as Lieutenant Riley. Bob Griffin was heard as Sproat, Lorene Tuttle as Miss Bothwell, and Herb Butterfield as Felix. The music is composed and presented by Eddie Dunstetter, your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Boy, that was quite a few turns. Some mental challenges there as you're trying to keep up with. He did it. He didn't do it. He did it. He didn't do it. Incredible twist here, making for a satisfying mystery. All right, well, now we turn to listener comments and feedback. Casey says, Adam, thanks for bringing Let George Do It to life. I have to say that Virginia Gregg is an incredibly talented voice actress and has done a great job jumping in as Brooksy. However, I can't help but miss Francine Robinson and the chemistry she and Bob Bailey had going. That said, Miss Gregg will take some getting used to, but I will still love the show and the intense episodes they've aired as late, such as the Rose Petal Staircase, Too Near the Sky, etc. And I bet that today's episode would be part of that, etc. Thanks so much, Casey. Jennifer sends an email along, says, I'm a long-time fan of both your shows, Great Detectives and Dragnet. I have a question. It's a long shot, but I'm hoping that either you or one of the listeners can help me. I'm trying to find a commercial I heard on one of your podcasts. It is a recruitment commercial for the Merchant Marines. I have a dear friend who is in the Merchant Marines and would love to share this with him. I have the impression it was a wartime commercial, so I think I heard it on Great Detectives. I hope you or one of the other listeners can point me in the right direction. Well, thanks so much, Jennifer, and I am not sure right off. If anyone happens to know, please let me know, and I'll forward it right on to Jennifer. But it's interesting you mentioned the Merchant Marine, because I went ahead and I chose out 3 episodes for this month's app and premium extra. One for William Gargan, one for Edmund O'Brien, and one for Dick Powell. And the one I chose for Dick Powell was an episode of Cavalcade of America, where Powell plays a city desk editor who joins the Merchant Marines. It was a great performance by Powell from wartime, and that'll work for Jennifer's purpose. I'll send it along. But it will be on our App Extra this coming Tuesday. This week on Friday, we have one from Mr. O'Brien. So I'll be listening to that. And we have a new review on iTunes. Old-time radio shows at their best. Turn off the TV and get blown away by real entertainment. Well, thanks so much and that was from Buttles 4. Appreciate all reviews and even just ratings on iTunes. And that'll do it for us today. Remember, you can check out our other podcast, the Old Time Dragnet Show, at radiodragnet.com. And you can subscribe to our Old Time Radio Superman Show at laserandsword.com. Well, that will do it for today. We will be back tomorrow with Sherlock Holmes. Well, before we do get started, I want to encourage you, if you've not already, to try Netflix, which is growing its subscriber base in both the U.S. and Canada. There is a wide variety, a great selection of DVDs, as well as instant watch options, which you can watch right on your computer. More than 90,000 titles. Among the instant watch are movies about Sherlock Holmes, the British Sherlock Holmes series. There are Charlie Chan movies from the 1940s. And for television shows, there's the more recent Monk, Hawaii Five-0, MacGyver, among many others. So you can check out Netflix, get a free trial, go to netflix.greatdetectives.net if you're in the U.S., or go to netflixca.greatdetectives.net if you're in Canada. Now it's time for today's episode of Sherlock Holmes, The Adventure of the Tolling Bell.
Kreml Hair Tonic and Kreml Shampoo present the new adventures of Sherlock Holmes, starring Nigel Bruce as Dr. Watson and Tom Conway as Sherlock Holmes. Now, once again, it's time to keep that weekly appointment with our good friend and host, Dr. Watson. Good evening, Dr. Watson.
Good evening, Mr. Bell. As usual, you're punctual to the minute. Draw up your chair and make yourself comfortable.
Thank you.
That's it.
I see that you have the old black tin dispatch box out again, Dr. Watson. I deduced that you were going over your notes on tonight's case.
Elementary, my dear boy. And among the records, I came across some notes of cases that I'd almost forgotten. The shocking death of Crosby, the banker, the Addleton tragedy, and some data on the unusual contents of the ancient British barrow.
Those stories sound pretty intriguing, Dr. Watson.
I shall tell them to you some other evening, Mr. Bell. Tonight, I'm going to recount an adventure that took place in the heart of the beautiful English countryside. I call it The Adventure of the Tolling Bell. Well, that story began in the small country village of Carnforth. Holmes had recently brought to a successful conclusion the affair of the Barrow and Furnace wheelchair murders, and we decided that a few days' rest in nearby Carnforth would do us both good before returning to our arduous life in Baker Street. We were staying at a small but comfortable inn. Early on the morning of the third day, I remember, Holmes and I were in our bedroom waiting for those two essentials without which an English country gentleman could not start his day: the early morning cup of tea and a jug of hot water for shaving. As we sat there at the open window, a nearby church bell was tolling a funeral knell. There must be a funeral in the village, Holmes.
An astonishing deduction, Watson.
There's no need to make fun of me. Pressing sound, isn't it?
I suppose so. Has it ever occurred to you, Watson, that the history of bells is full of romantic interest?
Well, I can't say that I've thought much about it.
Almost every historical event has been accompanied by the sound of bells. They summoned soldiers to arms as well as Christians to church. They sounded the alarm in fire, tumult, and invasion. And many a bloody chapter in history has been rung in and out by bells.
You seem to be a mine of information on the subject.
Yes, Watson. It's a fascinating subject.
Come in, come in. Good morning, my dear.
Morning, gentlemen. I brought you tea and your shaving water. Mrs. Mickle said to say your breakfast will be ready in half an hour.
Splendid, Mary. Oh, Mary, the church bell is tolling a funeral knell. Do you know who is being buried?
That I do, sir. I wish it was me. It'll be my turn soon.
Poor little thing. I wonder what's the matter with her.
I have no idea.
Perhaps her father or mother just died. Or a young man. Yes, I bet that's it. She's a pretty girl. And she'd obviously been crying when she came in. Perhaps that's her fiancé they're burying now.
Watson, you have the sentimental imagination of the true storyteller. But we've come here for a holiday. You must give your imagination a rest, too. So drink your tea, remove your whiskers, and we'll go downstairs and investigate those kippers.
You like your kippers, gentlemen?
Excellent, Mrs. Mickle, excellent. Never eaten better.
Yes, indeed. By the way, Mrs. Mickle, we heard the funeral bell tolling earlier on. Do you know who was being buried?
Yes, I do. 2 souls are being buried. And one of them was a murderer.
A murderer? Good Lord, in this peaceful village?
What happened, Mrs. Mickle?
For old Threadgold, the corn merchant, found out his wife had been gallivanting around with a young fellow from Bolton. Cut her throat, he did, and then hanged himself. More tea.
Thank you.
Shocking. So the peaceful countryside is not as peaceful as it's made out to be, Holmes.
A fact that I've frequently had occasion to point out to you, Watson. Has the Morning Post arrived yet, Mrs. Mickle?
Here comes old Gilly up the path with it now. I'll see if he's got anything for you.
A murder, eh? What do you make of it, Holmes?
What is there to make of it, Watson? A jealous husband murders a faithless wife and then commits suicide. A tragic story, but a simple one.
Top of the morning to you, gentlemen.
Good morning, Gillian. Any letters for me today?
Oh, Mr. Holmes, 2 letters. One of them's got some newspaper clippings in it, I think. And you've got a postcard from a Mr. Lestrade. He wants you back in London bad, Mr. Holmes. Here you are.
Upon my soul, Gilly, you've been reading Mr. Holmes's private correspondence.
Bless your heart, Dr. Watson. If I didn't read other people's correspondence, how would I know what's going on in the village?
You were right, Gillian. It is newspaper clippings. By the way, you heard about the murder of Mrs. Threadgold, I suppose?
Heard about it. I told the bell this morning at the funeral.
You mean to say that you're the bell ringer as well as the postman?
Bless your heart, yes, Doctor. President of the Choral Society, too, as well as being on the parish council.
You're a busy man, Gillian.
That I am, sir. Take this afternoon now. I'm to ring those bells again.
Not another funeral, surely?
No, sir. A wedding this time.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it.
Young Sam Perrin is marrying the Slater girl. And you might say I'm responsible for bringing them together. Got some of their letters mixed up, I did. They looked each other up to exchange them, and presto, before you know what's happening, they're getting married. Regular Cupid, you might say I am.
Be off with you, Gilly. Other people want their letters. Mr. Holmes doesn't want his kippers spoiled with your idle chatter.
All right, Mrs. Crabapples and Vinegar. One of these fine days you'll smile, and the world will come to an end. Good day, gentlemen.
Talkative old busybody he is. Oh, Mr. Holmes. Mrs. Lackland's in the hall. The poor old lady's most anxious to talk to you.
Mrs. Lackland?
She has the seamstress shop in the High Street. Her only son ran away from home a few months back. I think that's what she wants to speak to you about.
Oh, but my friend's here for a rest, Mrs. Mickle.
I told her that, Doctor, but she won't go away without seeing Mr. Holmes.
Oh, very well. Ask her to come in, please, Mrs. Mickle.
Yes, Mr. Holmes.
Oh, why do you bother to see her, Holmes? Sounds like a trivial matter.
The disappearance of an only son can never be a trivial matter.
Well, I meant trivial for you, not for her.
This is Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson, dear.
Hey, Shirley. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. Please sit down, Mrs. Lackland. That's it. Now, what's the trouble?
It's Tom, sir. My only son. He left me 4 months ago, and I've not seen ear nor eye of him since.
You've had no message from him since he left?
Not one word. I'm fair out of my mind, sir.
Have you any idea of his reason for leaving the village, Mrs. Lackland?
None, sir. He was a good boy, and he worked hard, and he didn't fool around with those flippity-gibbet girls in the village. I think he's met with foul play, gentlemen. And I want you to find out about him for me, Mr. Holmes. I've heard say in the village that you're the greatest detective in England.
Mrs. Lackland, I'd be glad to help you, but you give me no clues to work with. I'm afraid
If
that I
it's
can't...
money you want, I got £20 in my postal savings. It's all yours if you can bring my Tommy home to me. Or at least tell me he's safe.
Mrs. Lackland, I wouldn't dream of accepting a fee. However, I shall give your problem some thought. If I arrive at any conclusions, I'll get in touch with you at once.
God bless you, Mr. Holmes. Good morning to you, sir.
Good day.
Good morning, Mr. Lackland. Poor old thing. I don't see how you can help her, Holmes.
Nor do I, at the moment. But a young man who has grown up in a small village like this may have led a life that his mother is totally unaware of. You said that you had to work on one of your stories today,
Yes,
Watson.
I had a letter from the editor of the Strand magazine yesterday requesting a manuscript as soon as possible.
Splendid. Then you stay at the inn and work on your latest masterpiece while I scour the village to see what may be found out about the missing young man.
beginning to think you got lost.
Hello, Watson. I trust you had a profitable session with pen and paper.
Well, I've done about half a chapter. I would have done more if it hadn't been for those infernal bells.
The wedding ceremony that the worthy Gilly told us about this morning. Oh, I'm tired.
Oh, well, what did you find out about Mrs. Lackland's son?
Among other things, that he had a secret love life unknown to his mother. And the object of his affections was none other than the maid who brought us our tea this morning.
Mary? Have you talked to her?
No, it's her half-day off, and I was unable to find her. However, I shall question her when she brings our tea tomorrow morning. Come in, Mary.
Oh, Mrs. Mickle.
Good morning, gentlemen. Here's your tea and shaving water.
Where's Mary this morning?
She didn't come to work. Must be ill again. Unreliable girl. And no better than she ought to be, if you ask me. It's no job for me to be carrying tea and hot water upstairs.
I hear the village bell tolling for another funeral. Does Carnforth have a burial every morning? I really don't see how the population can run to it.
It's another suicide, sir.
Another suicide? Good Lord.
Old John Larrabee, the baker. He was expecting some money from his son in Australia. It never came. And they foreclosed on his shop. And he hanged himself. Will you be wanting a couple of boiled eggs to your breakfast, gentlemen?
No, I haven't much of an appetite, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
That woman seems absolutely heartless. She almost smacks her lips when she tells us about these tragedies.
Yes, Watson, I noticed it. This peaceful village is beginning to seem strangely sinister to me. And since you have no appetite for breakfast, perhaps you'll join me in a little excursion as soon as you're dressed.
Of course. Where are we going?
To see the maid, Mary. I'm anxious to talk to her before another funeral bell begins to toll.
This must be the cottage, Holmes. They said it was the one with honeysuckle over the gate.
Yes, and there's Mary sitting on the porch.
Oh, she's got up. She's coming up the path to meet us.
Good morning, Mary. I'm sorry you're not feeling well.
Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson, why have you come here? Not to ask about my health. Or should a servant girl matter to gentlemen like you?
Oh, you must judge us, my dear. I assure you that
No, Watson. Let's be honest and admit we didn't come here because of our concern for Mary's health.
Then why did you come here, sir?
Mrs. Lackland asked me to try and find her son, Tom.
Tom?
Yes, Tom Lackland. I thought you might be able to help me, Mary.
If I could help you, Mr. Holmes, I'd be helping myself, too. Here come Gilly, the postman. Gilly? Gilly, is there a letter for me today?
No, lass. There's nothing for you again.
There must be, Gilly. There must be there.
No, lass. If the letter would come, I'd bring it to you as fast as my legs would carry me. You know that. Morning, Mr. Holmes. Dr. Watson. Left some letters at the inn for you, Doctor. You had a letter from a lady.
Oh, how do you know it was from a lady?
Reeked with the smell of violets, it did. And it was written in green ink on grey paper, sir.
Amazing deduction.
That sounds like your young friend from Daly's, Watson.
Oh, how did you know about... Well, I mean, I don't have a young friend from Daly's, Watson.
Quite. Gilly, you tolled another funeral bell today, didn't you?
Aye, sir. And a tragic thing it was. Fate, you might call it. Old Larrabee hanged himself because he didn't get money from his son in Australia. I found him, I did. I was the one to cut him down. And right in the post bag was the letter he was waiting for. The letter that had saved his life.
Great Scott, what a ghastly piece of irony.
That it was, sir. That it was. Well, gentlemen, I'll be on my way. Good day. Good day, Mary. Perhaps that letter will arrive tomorrow.
No. I'll never hear from Tom, never. He's ashamed of me. That's why he deserted me.
Deserted you, Mary? You speak almost as if you were his wife.
I am his wife.
What?
We were married secretly in Rochdale 5 months ago, come Tuesday.
And he never told his mother?
He was afraid to. She thought I was beneath him. Tom said he'd go away and get a good job and then return here and fetch me back with him. He went away all right. But he never came back, sent me word.
When he left, did he give no clues to his destination? No hint of any kind, Mary?
Well, He did once say, Mary, I'm going to clear out to this puddle and make my fortune, even if I have to bury it. And then he said, bury me fortune. That's a joke, isn't it? But I didn't know what he meant by it.
I think I do, Mary. Watson, we're taking a short train journey as soon as possible.
Oh, where are we going, may I ask?
We're going to the town of Barrie in search of this young lady's husband.
What makes you think Tom might be in Barrie, Mr. Holmes?
Because the famous fortune cotton mills are in Barrie. It would seem possible that when your husband joked of burying his fortune, he was talking of going to the mills there.
Wherever he's gone, he won't be coming back for me. I know that.
No, don't talk like that, my dear. Remember, you have friends, Mrs. Lackland. How much longer is Holmes going to be? Leaves me standing outside the factory gates as if I were a blasted coachman. Oh, there he is. Holmes! Holmes!
Hello, Watson. Permit me to introduce you to Mr. Tom Lackland. Tom, this is Dr. Watson.
How do you do, Dr. Watson?
How do you do? Never mind how I do, young fellow, my lad. How do you do? Your behavior's been absolutely shocking. Shocking.
Now, what are you talking
Leaving
about?
your dear old mother and deserting your pretty little bride because you're ashamed of her. You're a scoundrel, sir. You deserve a good horsewhipping, and I've a good mind to give it to you.
I don't know what you're talking about, Dr. Watson, but I don't like the words you use. And if it's violence you want, I don't mind telling you I'm amateur heavyweight champion of the county.
You are? Oh, well, no need to become aggressive, boss.
Let's waste time on being acrimonious, Watson. Let's get back to the station as fast as we can. The return of the prodigal is long overdue. We must give them every opportunity to kill the fatted calf.
Hi, there's Mary's house. I'm dying to see her.
And after this reunion, Tom, I suggest that you both go over and see your mother. I'm sure she'll forgive you.
Yes, Mr. Holmes, I'll do that.
Well, perhaps we should have warned her. Your sudden appearance may be something of a shock.
I think it's a shock that Mary can handle. She must be out. Door's locked.
Knock again, if you don't mind. She may be asleep. Great heavens! That was a revolver shot.
Come on, Watson. Help me break in the door.
Now, Dr. Watson, that was a fine place to break off your story. You left me right on the edge of a cliff. Had the young girl shot herself?
She'd shot at herself, Mr. Bell. But fortunately, a last-minute lack of courage had made her shot go wild. Holmes and I and the young bridegroom burst into the house and wrested the smoking revolver from her hand. I must confess that the union between the two young lovers was a touching sight. In fact, I felt considerably older than I was as Holmes and I stood there listening to Tom, reassuring her.
Mary, darling, it's all right. I'm here.
Oh, Tom, you are. You did come back from me. I thought you never would. I tried to kill myself, but I hadn't the courage.
Oh, there, Mary. Everything's going to be all right now.
We'll be, Tom, won't it? I'm so tired.
And now, Tom, I think the time has come to reassure Mary that you did write to her.
Oh, of course I did, Mary, darling, and I sent you money and told you that I'd be back here to take you to Barrie as soon as I'd saved up enough.
You wrote to me, Tom?
Twice a week. And I wrote to Mother, too.
Then why didn't I get the letters?
The answer to that should be obvious, my dear. Gilly, the postman, deliberately withheld them from you.
Gilly?
Great heavens. Why? I have my suspicions. Strong suspicions. But I have to get proof. Tell me, Mary, the day before yesterday, Mr. Threadgold murdered his wife. Do you know how he learned of her infidelity?
Well, I'm not sure, but I did hear Mrs. Nichols say that it was through some letters that got mixed up. The letters addressed to her were delivered to his office instead of at the house.
Gilly again. Precisely. Surely the whole terrible pattern begins to take shape. Tom.
Yes, Mr. Holmes?
I'm going to lay a trap. To spring it, I shall need your assistance.
Of course, Mr. Holmes. I'll do anything.
Wait here with Mary until darkness falls. Then muffle yourselves up and go to your mother's house. Wait there in hiding and let no outsiders see you until you hear from me.
Since you two lovebirds have been separated for 4 months, I don't imagine that'll be too unpleasant.
Quiet, Watson. You understand, Tom?
Yes, Mr. Holmes.
Good. Then come on, Watson.
What's your plan, Holmes?
I'll tell you as we go. One thing I can promise you. Before the sun is very high tomorrow, I shall free this village from one of the most subtly evil powers I've ever come in contact with.
Good morning, Dr. Watson. Mr. Holmes.
Good morning, Mrs. Mickle.
Good morning.
I always said that Mary was a no-good girl, and now she's killed herself. But of course, I had to come to her funeral.
It's very charitable, Mrs. Mickle, I must say. In any case, the vicar says that the poor girl was of unsound mind.
Yes, madam, you can't blame her.
Well, I'll be getting into the church.
Holmes, this farce is beginning to get on my nerves. What are we accomplishing by burying an empty coffin?
You'll soon see, old chap. Come on, let's slip into the vestry. This way.
Oh, where are we going, Holmes?
Up the stairs that lead to the belfry. Here they are.
Well, supposing Gilly turns nasty when he finds out we know his secret.
Then we must handle him to the best of our ability, Watson.
Well, I must say I do not relish the thought of a tussle high in the belfry of a church. The man must be insane.
Obviously. That's why his power must be destroyed. This door apparently leads to the belfry. Keep your wits about you, Watson. Good morning, Gilly.
Mr. Holmes! Dr. Watson! You've come to see me at work. That's nice of you. Not often I get company up here.
We haven't come up here to see you at work, Gilly. We know your diabolical work only too well.
Yes, Gilly, we know your secret.
What secret's that?
You're mad with power, Gilly. You've tried to control the destiny of this village. In your position as postman, you thought you had the power to give life and death.
That I am, sir. And it's a great power. It makes a man feel good. Almost like a god, you might say.
That's sacrilege, you scoundrel. You were responsible for the murder of Mrs. Treadgold.
Aye, sir, that I was. And for the old man hanging himself.
You were responsible for John Larrabee's suicide, weren't you?
Aye, that I was. Larrabee tried to vote me off the village council. I swore I'd make him fight for it, and I did.
Your reign is over, Gilly. You'll never toll a bell again. The only one you'll hear will be a prison bell.
You can't touch me, Mr. Holmes. You've got no proof. There's nothing you can do.
Don't be too sure. I've enough influence to take your job away.
You take me away from me bells. I live for these bells. You wouldn't take me away from them.
You couldn't live without the power they give you, could you, Gilly?
You're trying to destroy me!
You are destroyed, Gilly.
Yes, you've already failed. Mary's alive.
Alive? But the coffin they're burying down there
is full of stones. You'll be the laughing stock of the village, Gilly.
They'll never laugh at Gilly. You can't catch me, Mr. Holmes. I'm beyond you still.
He's running up the ladder leading to the bell car.
Come back, Gilly. Come back.
He's mad as a hatter.
Quite.
What's he going to do up there? He might set fire to the steeple, commit any madness. I'm going to fetch him, Holmes.
No, Watson. He drew a knife as he fled. And with that rickety staircase and the narrow opening leading into the bell chamber, you'd never stand a chance. He'd get you on the first slash.
How are we going to get him down?
There's only one way. He's in a tiny loft containing his beloved bells. We'll see how much he loves them at close quarters. I doubt if even he can stand the noise in that confined space. Where's that bell rope?
Come down, Gilly. Come down from there.
Stop! Stop ringing the bell!
Not until you come down, Gilly.
Stop ringing them! I can't stand it! You drive me mad!
You are mad, Gilly. Mad with power. Come down here, I say.
I'm coming!
Great heavens, he hurled himself out of the belfry. Holmes, he hasn't a chance of surviving that fall.
I have no intention of causing the unhappy man to jump to his death, Watson, though I cannot help but feel that his poor demented mind may find a happy oblivion this way rather than in the confines of an asylum.
Yes, you're probably right, Holmes.
It's been a shocking case, Watson, shocking. And once again it proves the old saying that violence does in truth recoil upon the violent, and the schemer falls into the pit which he digs for another.
Now, Dr. Watson, what about next week?
Well, now, let me see. What shall I tell you? Next week, I think I'll tell you a rather gruesome story about how Sherlock Holmes saved the life and the sanity of a certain Count Romagny. I call it The Adventure of the Carpathian Horror.
Tonight's new Sherlock Holmes adventure was suggested by an incident in Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's story, The Golden Pince Nez. Nigel Bruce appeared through the courtesy of California Pictures. Tom Conway by permission of Eagle Lion Pictures. The Sherlock Holmes series is produced by Tom McKnight with original music composed and conducted by Alex Steiner. This is Joseph Bell speaking for Kreml Hair Tonic and Kreml Shampoo and inviting you to be with us next week at this same time when Dr. Watson will tell us
The Adventure of the Carpathian Horror.
Welcome back. Well, this episode was the best program of any sort, radio, television, or movie, I've witnessed featuring a maniacal postman. This one is particularly interesting because when you think of somebody who could get a God complex, you might think of, a politician or a big businessman, or you might think of a doctor, in some of the extreme cases. This was pretty inventive, having somebody in a relatively humble position of being on the town council, ringing a bell, and delivering the mail as having this sort of godlike sense of self-importance. So they really did a good job, I think, making this work. By the way, if you happen to run a community theater, this is actually a program that they have the script available for theater groups to download and to be able to perform. It's genericradio.com, the Generic Radio Workshop. Really nice if you want to perform radio programs. All right, well, we turn now to listener comments and feedback. And we begin with Mark, who had some thoughts on the program we did a couple weeks ago, The Adventure of the Scarlet Worm. After today's episode, you suggested Watson was in fine form in this episode, suggesting that he came off very well. I couldn't disagree more. I was positively stunned when he broke character and told his true identity to the woman that, at that point in time, he had no reason to suspect was not the spy he'd been told she was. His trust in her threatened to undermine the entire case and was simply inexcusable. The fact that he was later proven right only proves he got lucky. Well, I won't invoke as authoritative that statement that it is sometimes better to be lucky than good. And I wouldn't necessarily say that Watson got lucky. There are some folks who have a very good sense of when people are telling the truth or when they happen to be lying, a sort of intuitive sense. So I would say that he was a correct judge of character in this case. Others might say that he was just, lucky. I have another comment. This one comes from Bill, who says, I appreciate your sending me the link to the premium site after my small donation. And he's actually is planning a retirement and will depend even more on you to provide me with great listening while I perform the chores around our property. Just who is Sherlock Holmes? My wife would tell you in an instant that only Basil Rathbone could be Sherlock. She has an extensive collection of original lobby cards from the 14 Sherlock Holmes movies starring Basil and Nigel. It is when both are playing the characters that she is willing to listen or watch any Sherlock Holmes episode. It is interesting that Basil became very frustrated at having been typecast at Holmes. The attitude is very common among actors and will always be so. Thanks. I think that's true. Actors really, they like to act and to have the ability to play a wide variety of characters. And Rathbone was very able at nearly everything he did, playing in dramas, romances, comedies, horror, and on the stage as well. Concludes by saying, I'm very grateful to you for the fantastic job you do broadcasting all these old-time radio shows. I grew up listening to them and will always believe the theater of the mind is far superior to anything that we see on the screen. Your commentary on each episode adds so much to the experience. Please do keep up the great work. I will continue to contribute to the cause as I'm able to do so. Well, thank you so much, Bill. I appreciate your kind note. We have another question. This one's regarding our big list of radio detective old-time radio shows. And one show that I put on the not doing list was Bulldog Drummond. Why not Bulldog Drummond? You must have a reason, but I've never heard the radio show, so I cannot guess what it might be. Enlighten us, please. What's wrong with the show? Well, thanks for the comment, Shirley. Bulldog Drummond as a radio program, and there are movies and things like that we may end up adding on the video side. I haven't watched them yet. But as a radio program, it just wasn't very exciting. It didn't have any outstanding acting. The plots weren't that intriguing. There wasn't any interesting dialogue. And perhaps the biggest reason that I won't include a program in the podcast is if I don't enjoy it very much. Because a big part of this podcast is my sharing my enthusiasm for these programs with listeners. And if I don't have any enthusiasm, kind of counter productive to the way we like to run the show. We are going to eventually end up doing the Private Files of Rex Saunders, which has some similarities to Bulldog Drummond, even the Foghorn opening, but I think much better acting with Rex Harrison in the lead, and a lot more fun writing. Thanks for the question, Charlene. We also have a new app review. PhotoFan says, good selection of great detectives from when radio was at its best and your imagination could put you in the venture. Look forward to more episodes. And then we have another review on iTunes for just the show that says, Mr. Graham, you are a stress reliever. Well, thanks so much, and as always, it's great to be with you. We'll see you tomorrow with yours truly, Johnny Dollar, as we wrap up another week. Well, before we do get started with today's program, I want to encourage you, as you make your travel plans, remember JohnnyDollarAir.com. JohnnyDollarAir.com is a price line, so you have the ability to either name your own price on hotels, rental cars, airline tickets, and a wide variety of other travel needs, or you can choose from published fares. Best of all, part of your purchase goes to help support the great detectives of old-time radio. So when you're making your travel plans, go to JohnnyDollarAir.com first. Well, let's get into today's episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, the Alonzo Chapman matter.
From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as...
Johnny Dollar.
This is Lieutenant Sherlock. Did you leave a message for me to call?
Yes, I did, Lieutenant. I want you...
It was all bungled up by the time I got it. Snyder got your name and what hotel, but I never did find out who you are and what you wanted with me.
It was about the Alonzo Chapman killing.
Oh. Well, what's your interest in that?
I'm an insurance investigator. I was sent out here from Hartford, Connecticut to see what I could learn.
Oh, you were? Well, how'd you get out here so fast?
We got the news at about 8 last night. I was on a plane by midnight and in Los Angeles by noon today.
Oh, well, you must be tired. I don't have any more than I had last night. I suppose you want to talk to me, though.
Yeah, I'd like to.
All right. Come on over. But give me an hour so I can get some lunch.
Edmund O'Brien in a transcribed adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office Tri-State Insurance Group, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Alonzo Chapman matter. Expense account item 1, $208.50, airfare and incidentals between Hartford, Connecticut, and Los Angeles, California. After a delay of about an hour or so, I was able to make an appointment with Lieutenant Jim Schock, the detective in charge of the case. I met him at about 2:15, and he brought me up to date.
Chapman was registered at the Quincy Hotel. He met this girl in the hotel bar at about 7 last night. They left together about, got it, 7:45. Turned in the alley to get to the parking lot where her car was parked, and that's where he was shot, in the alley.
Was it robbery?
No. He was well heeled, too, over $300. Had in his coat pocket.
What about this girl? We didn't hear about her.
We did. Norma Sale. Picked up on a shoplifting charge last year. But she got a job and stayed out of trouble since. Pretty little thing. Born in Nebraska. She says she met an actor in a road company back there. He told her he'd introduce her to some important people in Hollywood, and maybe she could... Well, you know how it goes.
Yeah, but I wonder if Chapman's wife is going to. She's on her way out here. How long had this girl known him?
Well, she says she just met him last night. I think that's what she said. She was transferred to county jail this morning at 11:30, a material witness. I suppose you want to talk to her.
Yeah, I'd like to.
And so would I. Might as well go on over. Because it's growing too fast. That's why. We got too many people. We got too many cars. Too much of everything but streets. It's a mess. Of course, I don't know anything about Hartford. I've never been there.
Well, it's a little slower paced than Los Angeles, but it's got its problems.
I suppose every place has something.
Yes, he is, Lieutenant.
Oh.
We just called Cassidy when they want to send her back to her cell.
Yeah, all right. I'll do that.
Thanks.
Oh, come along in, Norma. This man is Mr. Dollar. He's an insurance investigator from back east.
How do you do, Miss Ann?
Oh,
You can just sit down. How you feeling today?
not very good.
I tried to talk to you last night after Mr. Chapman was shot. You remember?
I sort of half remember. I went to pieces, I guess.
Yeah, you did. Couldn't get anything that even sounded like a statement from you. That's why I had you held, so we could talk it over today.
Sure. But I don't know anything. We left and then it happened.
How long had you known Mr. Chapman?
I just met him last night.
He made regular visits to Los Angeles. Are you sure you didn't meet him before?
Of course I'm sure. Why would I lie about that? We just struck up a friendship last night.
How did that happen?
Well, I dropped into the bar at the Quincy for a drink, and he started to talk to me.
Uh-huh. What all did he say?
It was just one of those things that happens all the time. I knew it was a pitch, but he seemed like a nice guy. He just didn't want to be alone. He asked me if I knew any good places to eat, and I told him about a place I like out towards Hollywood, so he asked me if I'd show him.
You ought to be more careful who you get friendly with. Or maybe I'd better turn that around and say you ought to be more careful about who knows you're getting friendly with somebody.
I guess I don't get you.
Well, we're looking for a reason somebody would want to kill Chapman. Maybe a man friend of yours?
Well, it couldn't be anything like that. I don't have any steady boyfriends.
Well, that's not saying there isn't somebody who wants to be one, is it?
Well, there isn't anybody, and that's the truth. If it had been somebody I knew, I would have recognized him, wouldn't I?
And it's possible that you might want to protect him if you did know him.
I didn't know him. There isn't anybody who'd do anything like that.
Now, I can't hold with that, Norma. You're young, you're pretty. Why, I should think there'd be a bunch of young bucks after you. Boys from that store where you work, maybe.
I tell you, there isn't. It's the truth. There isn't. If there was, I'd tell you.
Well, maybe you would.
We've got to find a reason that Chapman was killed.
I don't know. It wasn't because he was with me.
All right now, Norma, don't get all upset again. You've got to remember some other things.
I hope you aren't holding anything back, Norma. You know that we can learn the truth from other people.
Sure I do. Ask the girls I work with. Ask Jeannie Stevens. She ought to know. She's lived with me for almost a year.
All right, Norma. Now, when you and this Chapman decided on a place to go for dinner, you left the hotel, you started for your car in the parking lot, huh?
Yes.
You turned into the alley, which was a shorter trip than going around the corner, and this gunman was waiting there.
It wasn't dark, was it?
No, not quite.
How far down the alley was this man?
Well, it was not very good at measuring, but must have been about halfway to the parking lot.
There's a big trash box there, behind one of the buildings. This man was waiting behind the box, and when you came by, he stepped out, fired 3 shots, and ran away.
And it was light enough so that you could get a good look at him?
Yes, it was darker in the alley, but I'd have recognized anybody I knew.
Would you remember if you saw him again?
I'm not sure. Maybe I would.
Now, Norma, it's up to us to figure out how come this killer was waiting there, where he was. Beats me how he knew Chapman was going to pass by that box.
I don't know.
You can see how odd it looks, Norma. If he didn't know Chapman was coming that way, he must have known that you were.
I don't know how it happened. I'm telling the truth. Maybe somebody heard us talking in the bar.
Heard enough to know you and Chapman would go through the alley?
Maybe somebody could have. I don't remember exactly how it went, but I told him where my car was parked. Yes, I said just down the alley, I remember.
And then did you leave?
No, not right away. We had another drink.
Well, that'll take about 10 or 15 minutes, I suppose. Well, how about it, Dollar?
I don't think I have anything more. Thanks, Norma.
It's all right.
I'll get Cassidy to take you down. I'd like to send you home, Norma. Maybe tomorrow. You know how it goes.
To both Lieutenant Shark and me, the jealousy motive was still first choice. As a matter of fact, at that point, it was the only choice. Nothing in Alonzo Chapman's room or among his effects gave a hint of a murder motive. The Cleveland police had been requested to send anything they had on him, and local men were at work checking his Los Angeles business associates and his movements. Shark left to question Norma Sale's roommate, and I went back to satisfy myself on the beginning of it all. I waited for the evening bartender at the Quincy Hotel.
Now I'm not busy. We won't get crowded for another hour.
How about last night? Were you crowded about 7:30?
Oh, yeah, Swamp. If you'd asked me about anybody else in the place, I couldn't tell you a thing. But I remember this little blonde dame and this guy Chapman.
I'm glad to hear that. Usually doesn't happen this way.
Yeah, I suppose not, but I'll tell you how it was. You see, Chapman had been in a hotel for a few days, you know.
Yeah, I got in Friday last week.
Well, I'm not sure when I first met him, but he'd drop in for an early drink, like, 5:45, 5 o'clock. Yeah, we'd talk a little bit, then he'd go up to his room and come back around 7 and stay for another hour or so. I tell you, it was bound to happen.
What do you mean?
Oh, not his getting killed, not that part of it. I mean a little blonde. I didn't snoop what he was saying to her or anything, but when she came in, the bar stools were all taken. Chapman spots her and gives her his place.
How long had he been there?
Just a couple of minutes. I hadn't gotten around to taking his order yet, but when I did, he ordered for the both of them. Then after that round, they moved to one of the booths.
Did you happen to notice another man who could have been interested in them and could have been close enough to overhear them?
Oh, no, gee, the place was full. I didn't notice. Or maybe the bar girl did, Grace Curcio. She'll be in at 5:30 if you want to talk to her.
I'll have to come back later. Chapman's widow is due to arrive in about 20 minutes.
That masher had a wife?
Yeah, how about that?
Oh, I'm no stuffed shirt, but if that guy acted this way in all the towns he hit, she's better off without him. Now, I'll ask Grace if you want. What's your hotel?
The Larkin. If she does remember something about it, I'd appreciate a call.
Sure. My name is Howard.
Thanks a lot, Howard. See you later.
Lieutenant Shark.
Lieutenant, this is Dollar.
Oh, you got anything to report, Dollar?
Nothing that does us any good. Mrs. Chapman just checked into the hotel. I'm in the lobby there now. How did you make out with Norma's roommate?
Oh, just fine. She seems like a level-headed sort of girl. She says Norma hasn't gone with any one particular man for a year. That one's name was Clyde Mills. Served a 6-month sentence on some charge or other, not important what, but they're all washed up. She says he's not even in town, but we'll look for him anyway.
Yeah, I'm going up to talk to the widow, if it's all right with you.
Sure, go right ahead. Make a suspect out of her if you can. We need some.
Could be. From what I hear, she had a motive, not counting the insurance money. But I don't know whether she knew it or not. I'll check with you later. Meeting Mrs. Chapman was quite a surprise to me. I naturally expected to find the widow approximately the same age as the dead man, something near 50. But she wasn't. She looked to be only a few years over 30, if that.
Don't feel like you have to try and make things easy for me, Mr. Dollar. You don't.
All right, Mrs. Chapman.
Did he suffer much?
No, he died almost instantly.
If it had to happen, I'm glad it went that way, then. I hope you understand.
I'm trying to. I take it you weren't too fond of your husband.
I wasn't. And it would be stupid for me to tell you anything else or to act any other way than I am acting.
We're still looking for the reason your husband was killed.
You said he was taking this girl someplace.
He was, but we haven't been able to make anything out of that yet. She says there's nobody who would kill out of jealousy.
I saw her picture in the paper.
We doubted her, too, but our closest friend wouldn't have any reason to protect someone who had tried to kill Miss Sale. She said there was nobody.
Well, there are other men who'd have good reason to kill him. You didn't know him, did you?
No, I'd never seen him.
He was good-looking. Not tall, but he sort of looked it. He took care of himself. The iron gray hair. He was better looking when he passed 45 than he ever was when he was young.
I was surprised that you were so young, Mrs. Chapman.
That's why. He was attractive to women. My bad luck was leaving Cleveland and letting myself get roped into a marriage. I found out about one of these girls, and then he started bragging about all the others.
You mean it's possible that a man followed him to Los Angeles from someplace else and killed him?
I don't know, but I do know that he must have hurt a lot of people. Well, he's through hurting me. I've stuck it out because I knew this was going to happen someday. Every time I've read about a murder like this, I knew it would happen to him. Now it has. Now I own a house. I have a bank account. Insurance money. I'm finally getting something from my marriage.
I tried to phone Lieutenant Shock a report on my meeting with the overly honest Mrs. Chapman, but he was out of his office getting the teletyped answer to the request he'd made for information from the Cleveland police. So I cabbed over to see him.
Now, I'm not saying that what Mrs. Chapman says isn't possible, but I don't want to go off half-cocked on a wild goose chase.
I didn't think you'd like it. I don't either. Chapman came here from Fresno by train, so say it would have to be some guy from there.
I don't see why he didn't. Well, say he didn't kill him in Fresno because he thought he wouldn't draw suspicion down here.
How did this guy locate him? Chapman didn't reserve a room at the Quincy. He usually stayed someplace else, so he'd have to be followed.
That's no good, Dollar. Why, you couldn't expect an inexperienced man from Fresno to do a job of tailing like that through Union Station from there to the Quincy and all this traffic? It's possible, I suppose.
You're going to check it, then?
I guess so.
Probably wouldn't be too hard to get a list of the people who got on that train at Fresno.
Yeah, a list of hard up for motives. Now we got them all over the country. He was old enough to know better.
Lieutenant.
What?
Here's a follow-up on that stuff from Cleveland.
Oh, thanks.
Great.
Well, this is darn nice of those boys.
Get something?
Say, Chapman phoned Cleveland that day. He checked in, didn't he?
Yeah, it was Friday. Why?
Look at this. Seems like his missus was seeing a lot of a man named Nicholson. He's known to have left Cleveland on Friday night, and he hasn't been seen since. I like this a whole lot better. Yeah, this could be what we wanted. A man with a motive who knew where Chapman was. You think it's time you met the honest widow?
We will return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, in just a moment. Melody knows no boundary, neither does joy, as Russ Emery and Judy Lynn sing their hearts into yours. And Ray Bloch's orchestra and chorus offer the music that's great from the 48. It's the full-hour Ray Bloch music party every Friday night over most of these same CBS stations. Listen for it this Friday, a whole hour of the songs America loves, the music the nation dances to and lives by, on Ray Bloch's Music Party. Now with our star, Edmund O'Brien, we return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Mrs. Chapman, this is Lieutenant Shock investigating your husband's murder.
How do you do?
Glad to meet you, Miss Chapman. Well, I'm sorry about the circumstances.
It's not very pleasant.
Mrs. Chapman, we never did get around to talking about your friend, Carl Nicholson, did we?
What do you mean?
Well, you told me about some of the improvements your husband's death was going to bring you, but you didn't mention Carl Nicholson.
Please. I know I sounded hard when I talked to you. I shouldn't have said some of the things.
I thought you were being honest.
I was. Too honest, I'm afraid.
I don't think so.
Mrs. Chapman, I've been in touch with the police back in your hometown. They found out somehow about this Carl Nicholson. First, they said you'd been seeing quite a lot of him, especially when your husband was out of town. Is that right?
Yes, it's true.
What were your feelings toward Nicholson at that time? That is, prior to your husband's death.
I'm fond of Carl. I never made any secret of that. He's my age. We have a lot of things in common.
You know where he is?
Why, in Cleveland.
Oh, well, that's funny. The police told me he was out of town.
I don't know what this means. I don't understand.
You didn't know he left town?
No, I didn't.
Now, if you were fond of each other and you had all these things in common, it seems to me you deserve to be told if he was just going to up and leave town.
When did you see him last, Mrs. Chapman?
It was Last week?
Friday, by any chance?
No. It was before then. It was Wednesday or Thursday. Why are you asking me these things?
The police back there went on to tell me that this Nicholson left town on Friday.
The Cleveland police? Why should they even care about Carl?
Because I told them that on Friday your husband had telephoned you from the hotel where he was staying here in Los Angeles. Isn't that right?
Yes, but I don't know what you mean.
Didn't you see Nicholson on Friday after you talked to your husband?
No. Do you mean that you think I told him where Al was staying and that he came out here
Now, Mrs. Chapman, we didn't say we thought anything, but it's our job to solve this murder. We aren't saying we think you and him planned the whole thing and that he hopped out of here the first thing after he learned where your husband was staying. But there are a lot of things that aren't clear in our minds.
The theory you gave me about all these wronged men around the country didn't hold up too well, Mrs. Chapman.
It wasn't a theory. I just told you what I'd been thinking.
You said you'd been waiting for it to happen, but the way we see it, the way your husband was killed, where he was killed, makes a jealous out-of-town man seem too far-fetched.
But we're looking into it. Don't you worry about that.
Do you have a reason to think that Carl has been in Los Angeles?
We're covering the possibility that he might have been.
Maybe you just mentioned the Quincy Hotel in passing, casually, so you hardly remember.
No. I haven't seen Carl or talked to him since before Al called me. I didn't tell him.
Why did he happen to leave town on Friday?
I told you I don't know. I didn't know he'd left.
Well, with all these things in common, what did you think when the news about your husband reached Cleveland? Didn't you wonder about why you hadn't talked to this Nicholson all those days?
Yes, I did wonder.
Yeah, now, why didn't you tell us all that without all this back and forth?
Because it would have sounded so awful.
Do you think you improved things by holding back?
I don't know. Maybe I didn't. The last time I saw Carl was on Wednesday. We had a fight and he walked out.
You can prove that's the last time you saw him?
Prove? I haven't been thinking about anything like that. We fought over the same thing for almost a year. Carl wanted me to get a divorce, and I wouldn't.
Because you were waiting for your husband to get killed. Did you ever tell Carl that?
Yes.
You tell him that during this fight on Wednesday?
I think so.
But you didn't talk to him after that?
No.
Could he have learned someplace else where your husband was staying?
I don't know. I don't know who else Al called. Carl wouldn't kill him. I'm positive of that.
Would you happen to have a photograph of Nicholson?
Why?
Some are on their way by radio photo and some others by airmail. But we might be able to save time if you have some.
I have one. I want to erase something off the back.
Now, don't you fret, Mrs. Chapman. We'll show it to a couple of people. If Carl is innocent like you think he is, this is the quickest way to prove that, too.
Gee, I'd sure like to help you. You know, if I'd seen a snap before... Sure, don't say anything you're unsure.
What did the bar girl say?
Almost the same thing you did. It was crowded and she wasn't sure.
Oh, I'm awful sorry.
That's all right. I'd rather have a careful witness like you than one that thinks he has to say something to live up to the title.
Well, yeah, this guy could have been here and he couldn't have been. That's the best I can do. I'm sorry. Thanks, Howard. It's okay.
I'll do better next time. I'll keep my eyes open from now on. Maybe I'll get on a force someday, huh, Lieutenant?
You know how it goes. They say a boat is so expensive to keep up that before long you don't own it. It owns you. So we sold it, and there went my fishing trips. You get much back there?
Yeah, but I haven't gotten back into it since before the war.
Yeah, you ought to. Everybody ought to. It's the best
Here's
nerve
the
tonic.
Lieutenant.
Well, oh, thanks. We won't be long.
Take it down when you're through.
Hello, Norma.
Hello.
We've got a picture of a man we want you to look at, Norma.
Why?
Well, you look at it. Come on, get a good, bright light on it here.
Who is he?
Have you ever seen this man?
I couldn't swear, but I think he could be the one that shot Mr. Girk. I hate to say for sure because Mr. Chapman was on that side.
Look at it again, Norma. What is there that you think you recognize?
Well, maybe I'm wrong, but the way his hair, right here, the way some of it hangs down across his forehead.
This man's about Dollar's height.
Well, I'm not sure of that. He was kind of crouched.
But you think you saw the hair?
I don't even know why I think that, but when I close my eyes, it seems like I can see his face.
Yeah, well, now you take a long look at it. Study it. We'll have some more pictures of this man tomorrow. And if you can be sure, why, then maybe we can let you look at him flesh and blood.
What happened so fast?
Just take your time and forget the lieutenant and me.
If I could, I'd leave it so you could study it all night, but it's a piece of evidence, and therefore it belongs to the state, so I can't leave it.
As it turned out, we didn't have to take that photograph or any other picture back to Norma Sales for identification. The first reason turned up that night. There was another message from the Cleveland police. The body of our chief suspect, Carl Nicholson, had been removed from the remains of his car. The crash had occurred within 200 miles of his home. Witnesses said that he had been returning from a friend's country place, and the alcoholic content of his blood gave credence to Mrs. Chapman's story that they had quarreled. It became obvious later that he had been on a week's drunk. In addition to killing him, it had removed him in other respects as a suspect. The other thing that changed the direction of the matter was not as closely connected to any of the principals. As a matter of fact, hardly connected at all. It was a story on the front page of the next morning's paper. A man named Max Gerber, with a criminal background, had been found shot to death. Along with a year-old picture of him was printed the fact that he had been staying at the Quincy Hotel. With Lieutenant Shark, I went to view Max Gerber's remains and his effects, and at 10 that morning, Norma Sale was once more ushered into us.
Well, Norma, we seem to keep you busy, don't we?
Sit down, Norma.
Did you bring some more pictures?
Not the same as we brought last night. That wasn't the man you saw in the alley.
I wasn't sure.
The bartender at the Quincy says he'd never seen you in there before the other night. Why'd you happen to go there?
I don't know. Guess it seemed like a good idea because I hadn't been there.
Was there something special that took you there, Norma? There must be quite a few bars where you haven't been.
There wasn't anything special.
I think it's fair to tell you that we checked the store where you work and found out that you left there at 3:30 that day.
I didn't feel very good.
You felt good enough to go to the Quincy. You felt good enough to let yourself get picked up by this man.
I guess that's my business, isn't it? What I want to do and who I want to be with?
Why, sure it is, Norma.
Who did you want to be with?
What do you mean?
A man named Alonzo Chapman or a man named Max Gerber?
I just went in, that's all, and I met this guy.
You didn't go into that bar expecting to meet some special man, did you?
No.
Not even if you were paid to meet him?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
That man that was killed. I mean, the one you were with. Did you know what he did for a living?
He said he was a salesman.
Well, that's what we're getting at. He was a salesman.
We cut 2 pictures out of the paper, Norman. Here's one. This the man you met at the Quincy?
Yes.
You sure, Norma?
Yes, I am.
This man wasn't killed in the alley the other night.
He's the man I was with.
No, he isn't.
This man was killed last night, Norma, right outside the Quincy Hotel.
Here's the picture of the other man. They look alike, don't they?
They're the same.
I saw the suit Max Gerber was wearing. Even it was sort of the same as Chapman's. It was brown.
But they're the same. I mean, it was Gerber.
It was Gerber you were supposed to meet.
It was Gerber.
No, it wasn't, Norma.
Yes, it was.
All right. You were supposed to pick up Gerber in that bar, weren't you?
I didn't know what they were going to do.
But you did pick this man up and take him down that alley.
They said he owed them some money, and that's all they wanted.
Tell us how you found this man in the bar, Norma.
They pointed him out in the lobby. He made a phone call, and then he went into the bar. I went in after him.
Brown suit, gray hair?
Yes.
It was Alonzo Chapman you took out to get killed.
No, it wasn't.
Why should we tell you it was if it wasn't?
You're lying to me. You're trying to trick me.
No, they just made a mistake.
They pointed him out.
Then you made the mistake.
No, I didn't. I did what they said. They told me I had to, and I did. They sent me because I was blonde, and it was the right one. They didn't say they were going to kill him. He just owed them some money. That's all they wanted. That's all I wanted. I didn't want anybody to get killed. I was blonde, and I was young, and that's why they sent me. For money.
Expense account item 2, miscellaneous, while in Los Angeles, $255.08. Item 3, same as item 1, transportation back to Hartford. Expense account total, $672.08. Remarks, the second murder, Max Gerber's, was a gangland rub-out, planned with the aid of a young blonde as bait. The first murder was only a mistake. The apparent moral is that companies shouldn't hire salesmen. Women shouldn't marry them. Young blondes should stay away from them, but confidentially, some of my best friends are insurance salesmen. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd with music by Eddie Dunstetter. Edmund O'Brien can soon be seen in the Paramount Pictures production, Warpath. Featured in tonight's cast were Hy Averback, John McIntyre, Harry Lang, Jeanette Nolan, and Virginia Gregg. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is transcribed in Hollywood by Jaime Del Valle. Beginning next Wednesday, yours truly, Johnny Dollar, will be heard 1/2 hour later on most of these same stations. This is Dick Cutting inviting you to join us next week at 9:30 Eastern Daylight Saving Time when Edmund O'Brien returns as yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Every time you buy a United States defense bond, you help in our defense effort and you help build your personal security. Yes, defense bonds are good for you and good for your country. Remember, defense is your job. Buy United States defense bonds. Been to the waxworks lately? It's nothing like being taken to the cleaners, though 45 minutes of cleaner fun would be hard to find. You'll enjoy this evening's session of songs and stuff featuring Robert Q. Lewis, his guests, platters, chatter, and assorted pleasantries. It's the Robert Q. Lewis Waxworks, open for business 5 evenings a week, Monday through Friday, on most of these same CBS stations. Today, the United States is celebrating the 175th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Stay tuned now for the official U.S. anniversary program with President Harry S. Truman, Secretary of Defense General George C. Marshall, Chief Justice Fred M. Vinson, and others, who follow immediately over most of these same CBS stations. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, Johnny kind of went quite a distance to come up with a overly broad and somewhat odd moral. I would think a more obvious one would be not to pick up strange women in bars in out of town places. And I have to imagine myself as, in the insurance office getting this report. Some of these notes you have to wonder what the person in the office reading this goes, okay. Well, he's the best investigator in the world, so he's allowed to be eccentric, I guess. The other thing I've begun to notice is a bit of a pattern in the Johnny Dollar scripts. It seems like in most scripts, every line of inquiry they take for about the first 20 minutes of the show turns out to be a complete dead end. Of course, this was something that happened in Dragnet quite a bit. It's not a huge problem, but if it happens every episode, it makes it predictable in the sense that as listeners, we're sitting there, I was sitting here listening to this when they first were looking for the widow's boyfriend. My thought was, no, I don't think he did it. It's too early in the show, and so by that measure, I ruled it out entirely. But I did not guess the ending. I wasn't like, well, he must have had a double. I just knew whatever they were proposing at this point in the story wasn't what happened. Well, for those of you who have the app or a premium site, we have got something really and truly special for you. It's an Edmund O'Brien episode from Escape, Mr. O'Brien's only appearance on Escape, and it's based on one of H.G. Wells' story. It's called The Country of the Blind, and I hope you'll enjoy it. The app is also available in the Android, Apple, and Amazon app stores. And if you'd like access to the premium site, you can just leave a $7 tip at greatdetectives.net. Got a message here from Stephen, actually sent from right within the app. Just a quick note to let you know the Great Detectives podcast is my favorite podcast, hands down. I look forward to each episode and enjoy your app as well. Keep up the good work. And Stephen writes from Silver Spring, Maryland. Thanks so much. Have a review of our Nero Wolfe episodes posted over on iTunes. Mazzy Page 999 says, great job. Thank you for the excellent shows. Got a comment from KL in Australia. I listen every second day while at work. Another just says reliable. As always, Adam does a great job with the great detectives of old-time radio. And that'll actually do it for us for now. We will be back on Monday with Barrie Craig, Confidential Investigator. And join us again next Friday for another episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar. In the meanwhile, send your comments to box13@greatdetectives.net. Follow us over on Twitter at Radio Detectives. And once a month, please cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. But from Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.